10 past 5. Those are the stories that we have on the agenda this afternoon. Anything else that you'd like to place on the agenda on 0614 104 107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear, and our studio line is 086 000 2032.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
0614 104 107. Your X at Aldrin Sampear. And remember that we're also streaming live on YouTube as well as Facebook, so you can follow the show live from there as well. We speak to Aldrin Sampear next, who is the spokesperson for the Department of Human Settlements in Gauteng, which has demolished over 200 shacks that were built on illegally invaded land in Palm Ridge. In December last year, the invaders took occupation of the department's service stands that were meant for its Ikageng rapid land release program. According to the department, the invaders also illegally connected themselves to electricity, water, and the sewage system, and had caused damage to the public infrastructure. Aldrin Sampear now joining us on the line. Aldrin, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. So tell us about the eviction or even the demolishing of these 200 shacks, and of course this following a court order that the department has secured.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. So the department demolished over 200 shacks yesterday that were built on illegally invaded land. The invaders took occupation last year around December. The department took action a month later in about January. And in March, the invaders went back to court to request a stay in execution, which they subsequently lost. And the department tried on several occasions to engage with the illegal invaders, but with no success. And yesterday we had a joint operation which we carried out without any incidents and within the ambit of the law. We also initiated this with various role players, including the Ekurhuleni municipality, SAPS, the Department of Home Affairs, and then a local NGO called Ekurhuleni Mental Health and Trauma Center, which offered counseling services to the evicted people.
Who are these evicted people? Where are they from, and why did they invade this land?
It's difficult to say exactly why they invaded the land. However, the court had heard that they were coming from informal settlements in and around Palm Ridge. So this land that the department owns, we were busy demarcating it and installing services on it for our Ikageng Rapid Land Release Program. And this is when it attracted the attention of unscrupulous individuals who decided to take it for themselves. But this land was earmarked for deserving beneficiaries of this program, where we give people land and then they build for themselves.
So what's the plan going forward now, because that land is still vacant, and I don't know how long it will take up until the rightful beneficiaries are actually allowed to occupy those parcels of land?
So by early next year, we would be in a position to allocate these pieces of land. As you know, we've got a long waiting list for housing in Gauteng, including land. So there's no shortage of beneficiaries to allocate these pieces of land to. But it's a more general problem that we're facing, not just in Palm Ridge. And it is for this reason that we are warning people not to take illegal action and invade not just government land, but any private property for that matter. If there's a need for housing, people should rather go to municipalities, there are shelters, or come to the department to apply for a housing subsidy.
Okay. So the issue around security now, because as you say that it's not unique to Palm Ridge, it happened in Pretoria as well, if I'm not mistaken. But what are you going to do about the security? Because on the one end, there's the infrastructure that you say that has been damaged as well. So that infrastructure needs to be protected.
Correct. So what we're doing with all the sites that we have, we are putting security personnel in place, but we're also working with the
Was
port
there no security
developers.
before? Sorry, Aldrin.
So there was security in Palm Ridge. In fact, they were overwhelmed by community members. So we will be doubling the amount of security guards at our sites, and also allocating as a matter of urgency so people themselves can protect their land and their houses. And then we're working with the courts on a daily basis and the developers who build for us, and then the police to ensure that these illegal activities come to an end. It is quite unfortunate that these activities do take place, but it is rife in the Gauteng province, and we will be taking a very tough stance against evictions around the province, especially when it comes to vacant land and housing that's meant for the destitute.
Yep. On the sewage system and the infrastructure that has been damaged, you say that they've connected illegally to the sewage system. How is it possible? How did they do it?
You know, it's a difficult thing to say. I don't know how they do it, but I can tell you that people are being misled by unscrupulous individuals who charge them a fee and then connect them illegally. So the people themselves are not doing it. They're paying for others to do it for them. And in many instances, we found that unscrupulous individuals even coerce community members to go and occupy pieces of land under false pretenses. So we're also warning people not to fall victim to unscrupulous individuals. If people try and sell you government land, if it's too good to be true, it often is. So just be very vigilant and don't fall victim to any of these scams. These scams are also on the rise in the holiday period during the December holidays, so people should be very wary.
Yeah. Anyone arrested on that particular front?
With regard to yesterday's operations, there was someone that was arrested. One person was arrested by SAPS. So we don't know
Is this the person who was selling the land?
We don't know the details as yet. SAPS arrested someone on site. That's what we had witnessed. We will await keenly the outcome of the court hearings and the investigations, and we encourage law enforcement agencies to take harsh action to set a precedent to prevent illegal invasions and occupations.
Thank you so much for your time. Tahir Semada is the spokesperson for the Department of Human Settlements in Gauteng.
Gautrain is for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 40 Rand from Sandton to Rhodesfield. It's for the bozzers who switch off the geyser when no one's home. And for our clever who get that there's food at home means exactly that. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 40 Rand from Sandton to Rhodesfield Station. Gautrain, for people on the move.
Manchester United ladies and Liverpool ladies will never sleep well at night until they reach the summit. They refuse to share points as they are both interested in victory. This is the FA Women's Super League. Who will have a great day during the festive season on the field of play? Catch Manchester United ladies up against Liverpool ladies on Sunday, 17 December at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
It's 20 minutes after 3 o'clock. So when millionaire businessman Moise Katumbi fled the DRC accused of plotting against the government, his presidential ambitions were put on hold. Now he's back and is hoping for victory in a presidential election on the 20th of September. This report has been compiled by David Doyle from Reuters.
The DRC is a country situated in the Great Lakes region, a member of both SADC and the East African Community. The people of Congo will be electing their new leadership next week. An eligible voter, Shimba Rinat, wants to see change in her country.
We still need a lot of things to build. We need road. We need a lot of things to do because education is a lot of things to do. We believe in the former president now. Like for me, I want to give him another chance because I can see what he has done so far. So I believe that he can do better by this second term if he wins.
Apologies for that.
However,
that is actually the wrong report. That one is from yesterday. The one that we wanted to report in is the one that David Doyle from Reuters has compiled, looking at the presidential elections that are coming up on the 20th of December and looking at the profile of millionaire businessman Moise Katumbi.
It was 8 years ago that Democratic Republic of Congo's millionaire businessman Moise Katumbi made it clear that he wanted to be president. But circumstances delayed his ambitions. That is, until now. Congo's voters head to the polls on December 20th. It's not long until Katumbi finds out if it was worth the wait. Katumbi made a fortune in mining, transport and food processing before entering politics. For 8 years, he was governor of the copper-rich Katanga province.
I have experience. I'm not going to learn how to run a country. I ran Katanga province. It's the size of France.
When his governorship ended in 2015, his presidential aspirations emerged. But the plan ran afoul with then-President Joseph Kabila. What followed was what Katumbi has called years of politically motivated persecution. He was forced to flee Congo in 2016 after Kabila's government accused him of hiring mercenaries in a plot against the government.
I'm going back. I'm not scared about anything. I didn't do anything wrong.
His return didn't happen until 2019, after Congo's last election. He had been pardoned by Felix Tshisekedi and initially joined with the incumbent president's Sacred Union political alliance. By the end of 2022, that union had soured.
If I were in the place of the President of the Republic, I would not be running for re-election because his track record is so negative. It's going to be a red card for the President.
Katumbi is campaigning on his record as a former governor. He says he'll use his vast network of contacts to tackle issues such as insecurity, corruption, and infrastructure challenges in the mining sector.
I'm going to bring back a strong economy in our country.
3 other candidates in the presidential race have dropped their bids to back Katumbi, amid talks between opposition parties about uniting behind a joint candidate. But he's still running against a long list, including last election's runner-up Martin Fayulu and Nobel Peace Prize winner Denis Mukwege, in addition to Tshisekedi. Nevertheless, he has emerged as an opposition frontrunner with financial clout. That gives him the ability to crisscross the vast country for rallies that have attracted large crowds.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
25 minutes after 3 o'clock, in conversation next with Musa Mdunge, political analyst and PhD candidate at the University of Dundee. So members of Parliament in the UK have voted in favour of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. However, it wasn't a smooth sailing, as some conservative hardliners who are opposed to the bill in its current form argued that the policy does not ensure that people who arrive in the UK without permission can be deported, as it would allow them to challenge their expulsion in both the UK courts and the European Court of Human Rights. A Labour Party voted against the bill along with other opposition parties, and they made it clear that they will scrap the controversial policy if they win the next election. Let's speak to Musa Mdunge, who's joining us now from the University of Dundee. Musa, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. I'm a bit confused here. So is this bill in retaliation to the High Court ruling that found that actually the scheme was unlawful?
To your listeners. So indeed, the government's approach in terms of its response to the Supreme Court has basically been to really reject what the courts have said, and he is playing to the gallery of his own Prime Minister, whose political capital is running into bankruptcy. And so rather than deal with the issues that the Supreme Court laid out, they went on to renegotiate a treaty with Rwanda. They have paid so far £240 million towards the Rwandan government, even though not even one asylum seeker has been deported there. And so there are questions really on, the ethical role of the government and its moral, calculus in terms of this decision. But one understands why Rishi Sunak was in this position in the first place. The divisions within the Conservative Party since 2016 are there, lying bare, and they show that this is a Prime Minister who might be out of time if he doesn't change the situation around.
Okay. What exactly is it that they're going to tweak, though? Or are they tweaking in the bill? Because the Supreme Court has already said that it would be unfair to take these migrants to a third country where they could actually be facing human rights abuses or even be deported back to their countries of origin.
So one of the things that Rishi Sunak has said is that he is willing to negotiate with the rebels among his party, remember about 40 of them abstained from voting. So though, all Conservative Party members, didn't reject it, but at the end, there are some who decided to abstain. And he has said to them that he will propose in the second reading of the bill, which is expected in January, for amendments to be made that will exempt this particular bill to be challenged from the Supreme Court or the European Court of Justice. Now, the challenge of that move is that this bill goes to the House of Lords, and the House of Lords are likely to reject any bill or any part of a bill that would put the United Kingdom out of step with international law. And so he really faces a huge mounting challenge to consolidate support among his backbenchers, particularly the rebels, but also there's the issue of a possible breach in international law. And so what is likely to happen is that we will see another bill be attempted by Rishi Sunak, which will finally put to bed the issue of the United Kingdom's submission under the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice post Brexit. And this is going to be a key move in consolidating, Britain's post-Brexit posture in global affairs. But many people will raise questions about how the United Kingdom shows up in terms of international law.
Yeah. In conclusion, and we touched on this a bit when we last spoke, and that is on the approach of Rishi Sunak. Of course, some may argue that perhaps maybe it is a policy approach that he actually inherited. But what's happening with the UK and migrants?
Yeah, so this has been a huge issue, since the 2016
And this
Brexit.
is also speaking about documented migrants, by the way.
And documented migrants. Indeed, you raise a good point, because while there's been this obsession with the illegal, migrant flows in the United Kingdom, those pale when you compare to legal migration. Net migration was about 735,000, a record high. And what you notice post-2016 is, with the removal of the rights of European citizens to flow into the United Kingdom, what in fact you've seen an increase in non-EU, migrants flowing into the United Kingdom. And that's because of the needs in the United Kingdom economy that need to be filled. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which side of the bridge you're on, and this is a good thing that the United Kingdom is able to still attract talent. The question is, if they strengthen and tighten their migration policies or do not have smart migration rules, they may start to lose competitiveness to other markets such as Canada, Australia, Germany, and the United States, which have become increasingly more attractive places for people to migrate rather than the United Kingdom.
Musa Mtunga, thank you so much for your time. Political analyst and PhD candidate at the University of Dundee. It's 3:30. It's time for the news headlines with Mudupi Makhalime. Mudupi, can I just also say that you called Bridget Sister Bridget or Sister Bridgie? Yeah? Mina, you just say hater.
Brother Aldrin.
Good afternoon. Tell us about the headlines.
Thank you very much. In your headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa will appeal the ruling by the High Court in Pretoria, which set aside his recognition of the king of the Zulu nation, Misuzulu. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan has refused to provide crucial information regarding the bids for an equity partner for South African Airways. And the Border Management Authority says good working relations between South Africa and Zimbabwe will help to resolve the border challenges between the two countries. Details coming up at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And let's see what's happening on the roads with Rob Byrne. Good afternoon.
Yeah, very good afternoon. Quite busy today around Gauteng. First up, Joburg N1 going south. A crash between Winnie Mandela and Malabongwe Drive. So quite a bit of pressure back through to about the main road bridge area. Also a breakdown on the N3 south, just before Modderfontein. That's heavy from Limbro Park. And the breakdown on the M1 south at Buccleuch. So some delays coming through from Allendale. Also, if you're on your way to the airport, there's been a crash near Pomona Road. So a bit of pressure on the R21. Absolutely pouring down around Pietermaritzburg. And all that rain has loosened things up and caused a tree to fall onto the N3. Driving west, driving north, if you like, just up by Hilton. So once you sort of get off Town Hill from Peter Brown, it all gets really heavy into a single lane around that fallen tree. as you head into the Hilton area. Also, breakdown at Ashburton on your way to Pietermaritzburg. That is another heavy backlog of traffic. And Cape Town today, some real pressure around the Newlands area. The N3 going south is heavy through Hospital Bend towards Rhodes Drive. Rhodes Drive is heavy coming from Kirstenbosch side up towards the M3. And there's a big backlog inbound from Wynberg Hill up towards Paradise Road in the Bishop's Court area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
And Tumi is joining us in studio. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Aldrin.
Do you think that we could be like Sundowns one day?
Us?
Yeah.
As in like
beyond the headline, SAFM, like just be on a winning streak.
I mean,
non-stop.
If we have the money and, they're plunging in all that money and we like cut above the rest.
Yeah.
Any day.
I have to say, though, before you go into the story, maybe you can open up to the listeners as well and hear what their opinion is on it. Is what I find from the Sundown story, and you just added now with the ladies as well, is that these winning streaks mean something, right? But they also tell us that money is important. And if you have the resources to attract the most talented people and the people who have the technical ability to ensure that there is a win at the end of the day, then it becomes your fortune. As you were saying, that Sundowns would win with 3 games to spare or 2 games to spare.
Yeah, absolutely. And I personally feel the likes of Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs can compete on that level. It's just that they're not willing to splurge as Sundowns is willing to splurge. I don't know if they don't have the money.
Win.
No, I'm not sure. Perhaps they don't have the money.
Yeah. Because you can't, and the other thing about it is that you can't run on legacy. You can't run on legacy. Right now, what are you doing? Are you winning? Are you not winning?
But also, I think with Sundowns, it just shows that the more money you put in, you're going to get money in return. They've just won the African League.
Yes.
They keep just winning and winning and winning.
And Rulani, and there's something about Rulani's step when he walks. You can say that this is a man with confidence that, I got this on lockdown. But anyway, tell us about the winning streak.
All right, a very good afternoon to you. Let's start things off with Mamelodi Sundowns, who will be looking to seal their 11th win in a row when they take on Cape Town City in the DStv Premiership tonight. A win for Sundowns would mean that coach Rulani Mokoena has completed a full circle of taking points against every opponent in the league since taking over as a sole head coach. And the 3 points will take the Brazilians to 33 points, stretching their lead at the top 8 with the comfort of 3 games in hand over Cape Town City. Sundowns remain unbeaten in the league, 30 games since Mokoena took over, and will have Spurs as the last team that they haven't beaten since the young coach took over. Meanwhile, Al Ahly have stepped up their preparations for the 2023 Club World Cup campaign with a training session in Saudi Arabia. The CAF Champions League holders play their opening match, taking on Al Ittihad on Friday. And should Al Ahly win, they would advance to a semi-final meeting with Fluminense. Then the Egyptian Giants have reached the last 4 of the Club World Cup of each of the past 3 seasons, finishing 3rd place at both the 2020 and 2021 tournaments. Still staying with football, Newcastle's United boss Eddie Howe wants tonight's crucial Champions League clash against AC Milan to be another magical European night for his side as they bid to secure qualification from Group F. United take on the Italian Giants, knowing a win would make sure of their place in Group F's top 2, thereby making sure of their place in the knockout stage. But their hopes also depend on the outcome of Borussia Dortmund's clash with Paris Saint-Germain in the group's other final game, with the stage set for what could be an absorbing night.
Yeah, I think we're very positive going into the game. I think, as you say, it's got all the hallmarks of being a very special night. I think all we can do, quite predictably, is try and win the game and try and give our best performance, and that we'll give everything to try and do that.
In tennis, Nick Kyrgios says that he's tired and does not want to play tennis anymore as he continues to recover from injury. The 28-year-old missed all 4 majors this year because of a wrist, knee and foot injuries. And on Saturday, Kyrgios says that he will not take part in the Australian Open in January because of injury concerns. He enjoyed the best year of his career in 2022, reaching his first Grand Slam singles final at Wimbledon and a career high of 11 in the world rankings. However, it's a different story this year. In rugby, the Stormers' first game of the season at Cape Town Stadium promises to be a cracker. This is when they welcome Champions Cup title holders La Rochelle to the mother city on Saturday. It's the champions of South Africa taking on the champions of Europe in the first Rugby 15s match, and the Stormers are fired up to log their first Champions Cup victory of the season after giving an excellent account of their depth in the first round in Leicester. Well, that's it. It's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Dumin Kapele.
It's in those minds young and aflame, in the reach of those dare to reach, in the possibilities dancing just for you, in the eye and ear of a dream in fever. Yes, it's in hope. Hope and light pulled near and sent afar. Yes, it's in hope. From us to you. SABC Education. Enriching minds. Enriching lives. The 22-man battle at Borussia Park is high-level evidence of how powerful 3 points is. Borussia Mönchengladbach and SV Werder Bremen are both in dire need of victory to create a crucial path to the top half of the German Elite League. Who will dominate the 90 minutes? The Foles or the River Islanders? This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Witness the nail-biting clash between Borussia Mönchengladbach and SV Werder Bremen on Friday, 15 December at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi.
Hashtag SAFMBTH.
Yeah, so there is, so as I was having the conversation now with Dumi about Sundowns and their ongoing winning streak, and this is now Sundowns gentlemen as well as the ladies that are just doing incredible stuff and winning with games still at hand to play. Is the point for me is talent is not enough, you know. There's no way that talent could be enough. So you could be the most talented person. However, though, you do need the support structures and the resources that are required to try and elevate the talent, but also help you with your own technical skills, your abilities, to know where your strengths and your weaknesses are. And I actually remember listening to Pito when he was still coaching Al Ahly, and he was saying that one of the important things was that when he went to go join the team in Egypt, he asked if he could bring together. I think he asked if he can bring some of his technical team that he had, some of the people that he had worked with in Sundowns, because the importance is also about the mindset and how comfortable the coach is, and the coach also needs the type of structure and support that is required to actually win. Let's quickly take some of your voice notes on 0614 104107.
Good day, SAFM. It's Mandla here in Buhle Park. About Sundowns winning again and again. It's all about money. But the most important thing is how you spend that money. Look at the technical team of the Sundowns. Abo Peter Ndlovu, Ezra Mnyandoro. Definitely those people are earning more money. Those people have got a better eye to see a youngster who's talented, who will be graduated to Sundowns top team. So spending money wisely will bring more money into the team.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and the brand of the team just grows and grows and grows, and I guess more people want to be associated with a winning team.
Good afternoon, Aldrin and SAFM listeners. This is Anonymous from the Transkei. I have been a Sundown supporter right from 1997. And Jimmy has been extremely unfair to say that money wins everything. Money does not run onto the field. Players do. Players with a plan and players with a good coach. Players that are playing twice as many games as what Chiefs and Pirates are playing. Please give them credit for that. It's not just the money. Please, man. Al, come on, have a heart.
No,
I'm not. Look, I'm not taking away from.
Yeah.
I'm not even taking away from the fact that yes, the players that they bring in is a lot of talent and they do work hard. However, you do need money to bring those in. And another thing that the listener said earlier on is that how you use the money is also important.
Yeah.
The structures that they have at Mamelodi Sundowns, from a development structure, going upwards, it's proper. So I will personally still say, if you don't have the money, unfortunately, you can't do some of the things that Sundowns is doing. It's not taking away from the talent. It's not taking away from the hard work. It just says that if you do have that money, it helps you to put your plan into action and therefore have whatever you want.
And also to the point, though, right there at the end about it is the players, right, that go onto the field. That's correct. But also it is the mental state of the player that also plays a key role in how that person performs on the pitch. If I come from a locker room where I've just been told that there are chances that we might not be paid, how do you think I'm going to perform on the field?
Exactly. And I work a lot with the women's league, and they sometimes tend to compare the teams to Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. And some of the players tend to say, listen, we don't get, for example, if we travel to another state, the hotels that other teams sleep in, the nutrition that other teams like Sundowns would get. So all of these things need money.
Yeah. Even the doctors.
Exactly.
Getting the best of the best, getting the best physiotherapists, it's money. And unfortunately, it unlocks a lot. But like we've said before, and sometimes you look, let's make an example of, let's say Trevor Noah, somebody who's not in sports, but in entertainment, comedian. Trevor Noah would have never been as big as he is if he had stayed in South Africa. There's no way. But him moving to the USA and getting the, what's that show called again? Shucks, I forgot the show that Trevor Noah presented in the US. Was The Tonight Show or what? Okay, I forgot the name of the show. But anyway, The Daily Show, yes. So he got the Daily Show. He got all of that money, right? But all of that money also then propels his brand. And then you get all of the teams that you're able to work with to also bring in another flair to what you can offer. Because we know that more brains around the creative table tend to bring out the most out of creative people and the presenters at the end of the day.
And I can highlight, just talking about the DStv Premiership, one team to look out for is Stellenbosch FC. They've now started plunging a lot of money into the club. They're using literally the latest technology in training the players, and you can start seeing the improvement in the team. So money, one way or the other, whether we speak about it or not, it plays a role.
It does. Let's hear your take. 0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086 000 2032.
Good afternoon, team. Yes, talent is very important, but the most important is money. because without the money, Sundowns can't afford even to buy those talented strikers. How can you buy the talented strikers without money? Because they are too expensive, those people. It need money to buy them.
Yeah. Look at the type of money that they spend on buying players in the European leagues.
Good afternoon, team.
Hello, Adrian. No, Sundowns, no. What they are doing is not correct. Because, see, what they are doing is not a fair play. They are buying players just to cripple other teams. For example, you remember when Pizzo was coaching Sundowns? Chiefs was about to win the league, but they bought Malulega just to cripple them. Then what happened? They lost the league. So what Sundowns is doing is not right. It's not a fair play. No, that's why I won't support them. Even if they play the CAF games, I don't support them. Thank you. This is Bongani from Molvitash.
Good afternoon, Abu Aldrin is Fred Tracker in KZN. Abu Aldrin, it doesn't need a ban. The license disc of a truck or a bakkie, it specifies, or any vehicle, it specifies number of people to be carried in that vehicle. This thing of people carrying people in the trucks, putting them on beds or at the back of the bakkies, is just a violation of a road act, whereby the traffic officers are supposed to do their work. You don't need a ban to anything there. You only need to enforce the law. It is already there. The disc specifically says 2 people, 2 passengers, 2 persons. That's it.
Okay, let's go to Cleo, who's joining us from Mufulo. Cleo, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. Nice to speak to you once more.
Great. Nice to hear from you as well.
Okay, the matter that we are raising about Sundowns is just a season to carry effect. You see, we have seasons. Sometimes things go bad and sometimes things go well. And it will happen to every team and it will happen to every politician. I'm going to link this to politics. You see, right now, Ramaphosa is enjoying a great season because he's being supported by all the parties. But as soon as there are powerful people behind him, as Mavuso Msimang has stated that, as soon as those people feel that he's not saving their interest anymore, then we will think that he's not doing well, but it will be the end of his season. The same thing with Sundowns. It's doing well, but I mean, it's seasonal. Look at Europe. At some stage, Manchester United was one of the top teams. At some stage, it was Liverpool.
Yeah.
You can talk about the Barcelona.
But you can't speak about, Cleo. You can't speak about it being seasonal, almost as if it happens by chance. I don't think that it happens by chance. It is planned. There's money that goes. Like, for instance, even the example that you make of the president. If the president didn't have the type of donors and supporters that he received during the CR17 campaign, would he have become the president of the ANC? ?
That you have raised that point. Hence, I say that yes, it cannot be season year in and year out. But I mean, with time, you'll actually realize that money does not actually add value to life. It only gives you options. There are times when with all your money, you will not be a victor.
Yes, which is true. But what I'm saying is that you speak of it almost as if it happens by chance.
No, you're very right.
Yeah, like for instance, when we speak about, as an example again, children that come from homes where, let's say, the parents are able to take them to private schools where they have personal tutors and so forth, there's money that is involved in that because the parents need to pay the school, the parents need to pay the personal tutor and so forth. But then that also helps the child in their personal development to such a point where the child has an edge over other children. As an example.
You're very right.
Yeah.
Let me also make a disclaimer. For instance, I hold a PhD in public management and governance. And one of my strongest points is leadership. You see, the kind of people that we say are leaders in our country, they're not really leaders. They're charlatans. These are professional manipulators because real leaders have the interests of people at heart. Not the greed that it's driving their passion. These people are driven by greed. And there's no way in which they will serve the interests of the community. I mean, imagine right now, political parties are cropping out day in and day out. Do you think all those people are interested in the financial pie, which is the fiscus of the country? They are not interested in saving the people.
Thank you so much for your time. That's Cleo there joining us from Mufulo. 0614-104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Hi, Aldrin. Can I just throw a little bit of a wobbly into the whole lot? And maybe this is why a CEO of a company gets paid the millions of rands that he does, because he is skilled, he's got the expertise, and he lifts the brand of the product.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not just, maybe it doesn't just apply to a football team, but it applies to CEOs of companies. Thanks, Aldrin. You have a good day.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it applies even to sometimes not even just the CEOs, middle management, sometimes even low management, sometimes even right at the bottom of the hierarchy of the business as well, where you find that an individual would be paid much more than their counterpart. And sometimes that is linked to their performance and their ability to deliver. And there is a market value to it. There's a market value that is attached. Sure, there is the market average, that this is what the market pays averagely, let's say, for a middle manager who is in finance. However, though, if that person is talented and that person is able to turn things around in their department, for instance, they're able to push when it comes to sales and so forth, that person is going to be in demand. And the principles of economics tell us that high demand, low supply means increase in value, monetary value sometimes. And therefore you find, as you made the example now, when it comes to CEOs. But then the question is also, can a CEO say that, I think this is a bit too much that you are paying me. Let's deal with the cleaners and maybe give half of my salary towards the cleaners. Just a question. 0614-104107. And you can drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Aldrin, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to your team and to the...
Good afternoon, Aldrin. How are you? Aldrin Mafuta here. Congo goes to the elections in a week's time. But for me, the current crop of leaders or aspiring leaders, they don't inspire me in any way. They are not comparable to the likes of Patrice Lumumba. And remember, Aldrin, Congo is another tale of involvement of France in that region. As last night discussion with your other colleague, with the Ivorian ambassador, I did feel that France had made so much damage to Africa, even in the current terms. So Congo, for me, going to the elections, it's another ritual, but of no benefit to the masses in Congo.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Remember that we're also streaming live on YouTube as well as Facebook. Let's speak to Thando Lukoko, who is a National Node Coordinator at the Climate Action Network South Africa. So countries attending COP28 in Dubai have reached a breakthrough climate agreement that will see them transitioning from a fossil fuel in a just, orderly and equitable manner. We understand that this is the first time a global climate deal has specifically called to curb the use of fossil fuel. Now joining us is Thando Lukoko. Thando, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. Speak to us about the significance of the text transitioning away from fossil fuel, and also considering the disagreements that there were before the ministers met to discuss this.
Hi, Aldrin. Thank you so much for having me. So really the cause of climate change has been the burning of fossil fuels. That's generally accepted everywhere. And so the climate negotiations are effectively supposed to respond to that cause. And so for the first time in about 3 decades, we've seen the word fossil fuels being mentioned again in the decision text. Now, what this means is that all countries are going to be working towards the removal, or at least moving away from hydrocarbons, so coal, oil, and gas, and towards your renewables or cleaner forms of generating electricity. The tensions, though, particularly if you think about it in countries like South Africa and others that don't have the size of the economies of the West, is where's the money to be able to do this transition going to be coming from? It cannot be that a country like South Africa, a country like Malawi, or even other smaller ones in other parts of the world would be expected to make the same kinds of commitments to transition away from these fossil fuels like a UK would, like a Germany would, like a US would. And that's really where the problem comes in for many of the developed nations, is that they recognize, at least in theory, their role in the cause of climate change, but they don't want to accept the responsibility of being the first movers and being effectively the financiers of this transition away. And that's really where the core of this thing sits. The other issue that was emergent in this particular space is now the issue of trade. So, as you know, the EU is one of our major trading partners, but they're putting in measures that will limit the amount of trade that could happen between South Africa and the EU, for example, primarily because our economy is so largely dependent on coal and other forms of, let's call them dirty fuels.
So when it comes to this text that has now been adopted... hi, sorry, Tando, can you still hear us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, sure. When it comes to the text that has been adopted that says transitioning away from fossil fuel, is there any link at all around what's expected of financial service providers? And I'm asking this question based on the interview that Jamie Dimon, the chairman of JP Morgan Chase, had, where he argued that as far as he's concerned, fossil fuel is still part of still part of the fuel or the energy that will be required even as we move into the just energy transition. So they will still be giving money to companies that want to explore and companies that deal in fossil fuel.
So this is what we're trying to push against. If we were strict about it, he's not wrong. However, his predisposition is incorrect. We can't, for example, we're in Dubai at the moment. Dubai is a beautiful city. But if you had to imagine them switching off all of their oil and gas today, you might ask, how are they going to survive tomorrow, right? So naturally then, there has to be some kind of phasing out of these technologies and these dirty oils, right? But how and when is that going to take place? And this is the thing that's not being discussed. And then who is going to be financing then that new element that needs to be developed? So the technologies themselves are there. Many of them are still expensive because, of course, as economics dictates, the newer the technology, the more expensive it becomes. So JP Morgan Chase have intrinsic interest in making sure that the transition away from coal takes as long as it can whilst they continue to earn their incomes, whilst countries that are being drowning now in fossil fuels and in the impacts of what climate is bringing about face exacerbating impacts, so droughts, flooding in different parts of the world, depending on where you are. So for them, that's where the comments typically come from. It's because us sticking to the fossil fuel argument continues particular business models up until the time where the economies of renewables are favorable to them and they can expect similar or even not better returns. And at that point, we can then expect them to make drastic shifts. At this stage, they're not seeing the kinds of returns coming from renewables as they do with oil and gas. Last year they made record profits, right? All the fossil fuel companies. So and that is very linked to JP Morgan Chase because those are their clients. So this is where their predisposition is coming from. And so it's erroneous to think that we can continue with something that has caused the climate change in the way that we have in the past. How much longer could we be able to continue that way?
Thank you so much for your time. Tando Lukoko is a national node coordinator at the Climate Action Network South Africa. It's a minute after 4 o'clock. Time for the news with Mundupi Makhalimele.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Thank you very much, Brother Aldrin. The top story is the Sawa Ramaphosa to appeal the Zulu King Court judgment and South Africa and Zimbabwe to resolve their border challenges. A very good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa will appeal the ruling by the High Court in Pretoria, which set aside his recognition of the King of the Zulu Nation, Misuzulu. The High Court found that Ramaphosa did not follow due processes in accordance with customary law and traditions. The ruling further stated that the president must appoint an investigative committee to probe this. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says while Ramaphosa appeals the judgment, King Misuzulu will remain the identified heir to the throne.
Following a study of the judgment, the President will apply for leave to appeal against this judgment. During the course of these legal processes, His Majesty King Misuzulu remains the identified heir to the throne.
Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan has refused to provide crucial information regarding the bids for an equity partner for SAA. This is according to the Parliamentary Legal Services, which was tasked with investigating the allegations of irregularities in the SAA transaction that saw Takatso Consortium chosen as the preferred bidder for a 51% stake. The investigation follows allegations by former Director General at the department, Kgathatso Tlhakudi, that Gordhan had improperly influenced the outcome. Senior legal advisor for Parliament, Andile Dejana, says they have unsuccessfully attempted to get the relevant documents from Gordhan, who cited confidentiality as his reason for non-compliance.
At no point, as the minister said, I am prepared to give this information to the committee in camera so that the committee can look at these documents and make a determination whether what is in the documents is something that the committee can publish. In other words, where the committee would say, okay, we've looked at the documents and we think that having looked at them, you are correct in saying that we are not going to make them to avail them for public consumption. But at least as the committee, we have satisfied ourselves that Takatso, for instance, I'm just making an example, was part of the shortlisted entities and so on and so on and so on.
The Border Management Authority says that good working relations between South Africa and Zimbabwe will help to resolve the border challenges between the two countries. Zimbabwe is in the process of developing a Border Ports Authority bill whose aim is to establish the Zimbabwe Border Ports Authority. Border officials from South Africa and Zimbabwe met for talks in Pretoria today. BMA Commissioner Michael Masiapato says Zimbabwe has a lot to learn from South Africa, which has established a new border management system.
We do believe that moving away from a multi-agency approach in as far as border management is concerned into an integrated border management model with a single command and control is the key step towards effective border management. Our focus must be on the legitimate movement of persons and goods across our borders with the intention to grow our economies and ultimately ensure the realization of regional economic integration. This is very much critical as the step towards the realization and the implementation of Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
His Zimbabwean counterpart, Lieutenant General Nicholas Dube.
Our visit to benchmark our proposed Zimbabwe Border Post Authority with your authority is a testimony that our countries not only shares a common border and the busiest border post in Southern Africa, a Musina and Bedford border post, but inseparable destiny as well.
And the first ever cancer hospital, which will service patients from Malawi, Zambia, and Mozambique, is now under construction in Malawi's capital, Blantyre. Malawi has over the years been sending cancer patients to hospitals in India, South Africa, and Tanzania. A Belgian firm and Malawi's businessman Tom Mpinganjira are financing the project. Mpinganjira's wife died of cancer 3 years ago. The project's director, Alfred Mtetemela.
On a daily basis, for the chemotherapy, we are able to treat about 10 patients, and for the radiotherapy, a maximum of 30 patients in a day. And that you can calculate on a yearly basis how much we can treat. That's the capacity that we have currently. As I earlier on also said, we are only operating one bunker with one radiotherapy. But the design is that we are going, once the capacity improves or the turnout improves, we will extend and have another second machine in the second bunker. So in terms of capacity, the capacity will also pick up.
The top story at 4 o'clock, President Cyril Ramaphosa will appeal the ruling by the High Court in Pretoria, which set aside his recognition of the King of the Zulu Nation, Misuzulu. Back with headlines at 5:30 for SAFM News. Ke Modupi Makgalemele.
In your sports this hour, Jones announced as New Japan Rugby Union head coach and head named vice captain as Australia look to the future. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. The N3 stays heavy as you go from Limbro Parking towards Edenvale. It's a broken down vehicle just by the Modderfontein Road exit that's causing that backlog. Also a bit slow between the Willem Mandela Drive and Malabongwe crash on Joburg's N1 heading south. Very wet weather conditions across much of KZN. Pietermaritzburg's had a lot of rain today. Also a fallen tree at Hilton. It's probably almost out of the way, but there has been a backlog from Town Hill. And if you're driving Cape Town today, fairly slow getting out through Hospital Bend on the N2 and the M3 down towards the Newlands area. And a bit of a backlog on the N1 inbound, which is interesting, slow going through the Brackenfell area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
SAFM is sharing the festive spirit by giving away 5,000 Rand to 10 lucky winners. To enter, SMS SAFM Festive, followed by your name and what the festive season means to you to 41391. And you could win. Tune in to SAFM throughout December and we could be calling you. SMSs are charged at R1.50. Free SMSs, free minutes and SMS bundles do not apply. Terms and conditions apply. Visit safm.co.za for more information. Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies invites interested individuals and stakeholders to submit written comments on the SABC bill. The bill seeks to repeal the Broadcasting Act of 1999 to regulate the continued existence of the SABC, to provide its governance, to amend the ICASA Act of 2000 and the Electronic Communications Act of 2005. For more information, contact the Portfolio Committee of Communications and Digital Technologies by emailing sabcbill@parliament.gov.za, directed to Hanjiera Sali.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
10 past 4.
10 past 4.
This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
It's 10 past 4. Coming up on the show in this hour, we speak to the Minister of Human Settlements, Mamoluku Kubai, on the 2-day affordable housing forum that she's hosting in conjunction with her counterpart from Kenya, who is currently in the country. So we'll have that conversation in the next short while. And then at 20 past 4, we speak to John Tifo, who is a Public Servant Association's provincial manager in Limpopo. And they are protesting against a decision by the Department of Health, which they say has failed to pay the 3.9 million rand in overtime that is due to some 900 employees. And then at 4:45, we speak to Bertus van der Wyver, who is MTN's South Africa GM Residential, to speak to us about MTN's new fiber offering. That conversation is coming up at 4:45. In the meantime, your voice notes on 0614-104107, X at Aldrin Sampear. And remember, we're also streaming live on Facebook as well as YouTube, so I'll be taking your comments there as well.
Good day, Aldrin, and to the listeners of SAFM. This is Anonymous from Cape Town. Yes, my man, with Sundowns, yes, the team does have money, and I've been supporting the team for a very, very, very long time. It's just that now we've got a good team, we've got a good coach, we've got good players, the team is just so good, man. We must just agree. This is not about money. This is people that are hungry for success, people that just want black excellency to go forward. Go yellow, go yellow. Look at Man Hill now. Look at Man Hill. They've got all the money. But what's happening to their team? what's happening to their team. It's not all about money. It's about the zeal, it's about the players, the mindset of the players.
Yes.
And everything other else will come your way.
Yes, it is. I don't know why people think that money means that no hard work would have gone into Sundowns, for instance, securing the... I'm not saying that they bought the games, because that's a different conversation. I'm saying that, or I guess Dumi agrees with that part as well, is that money plays an important role also sometimes as an enabler. And the example that I made earlier on as well, to the gentleman who was calling from Mufulo, is think about it in your personal life. Sometimes, of course, all the money that you invest in something doesn't mean that you're going to get the type of returns that you had anticipated, because that is life. It happens. But money also gives an opportunity. Like when we speak about money, we say money buys you freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it, and to travel as much as you want to travel. And the limitation, of course, would come in whether you are healthy, whether what the laws and so forth say. So money does become an enabler. And if Sundowns didn't have the type of money that it currently has, do you think that it would have been able to secure the type of players that it has secured, and also the type of technical teams that it has been able to secure? Because those people come with their own talent. That speaks to what are the let's say, for instance, what's the season's strategy heading into the new season? What is it that we're going to do differently? Do we have time to actually sit down and review some of the games that have been played and decide what we need to look at differently? Because also sitting down and reviewing some of the games, by the way, because it takes time out of your day, right? Time, whereas with some players who, especially with the women's sporting codes, where they don't have the permanent contracts, means that unfortunately they're not able to give the same concerted effort and time that people who have permanent contracts in their sporting codes are able to give when it comes to reviewing games, when it comes to building on strategies and so forth. So money is important. Money is important. I'm not saying that the only reason that they're winning is because of money. No, that's not the case. But the point is that money isn't enough. Talent isn't enough. Talent needs support. Talent needs structure. Talent needs people who are able to think strategically and advise the person strategically as well. 0614-104107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
#SAFMBTH.
Let's speak to John Tifo, who's the Public Servants Association Provincial Manager in Limpopo. The Public Servants Association condemns the Limpopo Department of Health's failure to approve the 3.9 million overtime payments to more than 900 employees, including nurses and pharmacists. The employees were requested to work overtime, which exceeded the 30% of their monthly basic salaries owing to the service delivery demands, and noting that the department has severe staff shortage. So John Tifo now joining us on the line. John, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. Do you think that these workers could have said, no, I am not going to work overtime because legislation says, or the rules that are in place say, that I'm not allowed to exceed 30%?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. They could not have easily said that, to say, no, I'm not going to work because legislation provides this. Because as you work, you overtime. The reality is that one does not have that time to every time take a calculator, look at hours, look at the salary. They are not financial people to make that determination. That you get from your finances after you have worked. Or what you get, your managers come to you and say, we need you to work this overtime, 2 hours today, tomorrow 3 hours, and so forth. And they continue to work. Only at the end of the month, when you now do your claims, you submit to say, I've worked for my hours as many. Now they are calculated, and you are told to say, you exceeded you 30%. But what was even a concern was that although that was the case, the department assured them to say, continue working. We are addressing this issue. You will get paid. And later the department then come back to say, we have not got approval from Treasury. You do not have approval from Treasury, but people have done their job. And even where we are sitting today, as and when there's a need for these guys to come and do their overtime, they still do that because our people need service, particularly now that we're getting to December. But this debt is there, it cannot be resolved, and we are saying that is not fair for the workers.
Yeah. So what's the approach on this and this going to be? And also, the question that I ask about whether the ability to say yes or no, that on one end, yes, legislation says that you can't exceed the 30%. But on the other end is also that you're dealing in a power dynamic play, power dynamics that are also at play. The one person is, of course, the senior manager, and the one is the junior to the senior manager. And the possibility of that also leading to a frosty relationship within the workspace if the junior was to say, no, I'm not going to work.
You know, there are certain things that when you look at them at face value, for instance, you say overtime, it's a choice. You can say, I don't want to work overtime. But you know that there will be repercussions of that. And the power play cannot be ignored. And people are also very quick to point at unions. We're dealing with a very critical matter here. It's in the health space where, as we know, the essential service workers, they cannot strike. Tomorrow, if we are to make that call as PSA to say our members must refuse to do overtime until this matter is resolved, we'll be seen as people who do not care about the health of the poor people out there that depend on public hospitals. But that cannot happen at the expense of the very employees that, I mean, when we're talking about this, if I do my overtime and I must be given 6,000 rand, 3,000 rand, and I'm not getting that money, and I'm expected to work and be happy at work, it can be. I'm thinking of that, things are expensive and so forth. I'm thinking of that 6,000 that I'm owed by this very employer and the treatment that I'm getting. And sometimes unwittingly, that treatment then goes to the very clients that I should be saving, because we've got workers that are not happy because their rights are not taken care of, their welfare is not taken care of by anyone. So the abused employee is likely to abuse the customer that they are servicing.
Okay, so what's your approach going to be now, John, going forward? Because we also know about the austerity measures, which government doesn't want to call austerity measures, but the calls on various departments to cut on the budgets. And we have spoken before that if you look at the budget that has been allocated to the Department of Health or the various health departments, the provincial health departments, if you compared or calculated and adjusted via CPI, it means that the allocation has been dwindling. Inflation, sorry.
Our approach at the moment is to say the Premier needs to get involved, because we have seen even the submission that has been signed by those that have got the signing powers within you are acting HOD within the Department of Health, and it's the Treasury that says we cannot approve this. Now, if the Premier is not getting involved, we might be forced at a later stage to say, and like I indicated earlier, while we cannot say our members must withdraw their services because that would be a strike within essential services, but then we can take a hard stance to say from this particular date, if this matter is not resolved, our members should not do any overtime work. They must work within their working hours and go home when their working hours time is finished. But
and we're going into the festive season, and there's a high demand for health workers because of the emergencies and the accidents that we have.
But these workers are put in the same situation by the government, by the employer. And we are saying the festive season we are talking about, they want to get the clothes for their kids, they want to get this and that. And the millions are in the government's position that should be in the pockets of workers. So we cannot keep quiet and say, because it's festive seasons, we know it's normally time where we've got accidents and health workers are more needed this time. But if they are not treated like essential service workers they are, then why should we then give the service and, sacrifice ourselves out there for the government that is saying you do not matter. Because if these employees matters, government would have done something, would not be talking about this 3.9 million that they are owing to workers.
Thank you so much for your time. That is John Defo, who's the Public Servants Association Provincial Manager in Limpopo. 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032. And remember that you can also drop a comment on Facebook as well as YouTube. And that's where we are streaming live. When we come back, we're in conversation with the Minister of Human Settlements, Mamuluku Kubai.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
Okay, and the Minister will be joining us in the next short while to have a conversation about the forum, the two-day forum that is underway, where she is with her Kenyan counterpart. So the forum is part of the bilateral relations agreement signed last year. The forum brings together industry leaders and government to exchange their expertise on the challenge facing nations on affordable housing and opportunities to develop sustainable public-private solutions. To share more about this, we speak to the Minister of Human Settlements, Mamuluku Kubai. Minister, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us. How much of this forum will also be informed by some of the decisions that were taken in Kenya during the UN Habitat Summit?
Good afternoon, Senator Aldrin. Good afternoon to your listeners. Yes, the Minister from the Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, they call them Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, who's my counterpart, is in the country between today and tomorrow. It's a visit following the MOU actually signed between ourselves and Kenya during the state visit by President Ramaphosa in 2022 November. During the visit, there was a commitment that one of the areas that we work on is within human settlements, and part of the work President Ruto at that time as well was requesting South Africa's support and guidance, and also sharing of technical skills and expertise in the area of affordable housing. So with the Secretary being in the country, we are hosting a forum tomorrow with private sector participation and financiers as part of building collaboration between the two countries. So there will be business delegation from Kenya, which is in the country as well, joining that. Today we had a bilateral meeting to look at the MOU. We visited one of our social housing projects, and then we had a working lunch, where we brought your Department of Trade and Industry representatives to explain the importance of trade relations in our area. We also brought DBSA, which is also working between the two countries. They've got even some of the human settlement projects, housing projects in Kenya, and they were explaining their experiences and some of the areas that they could be able to elaborate. So we're hoping, as we conclude the visit tomorrow, we'll be able to cement more relations and implement what the two heads of state have mandated us to do.
So that question also in relation to the United Nations Habitat Assembly that took place in Kenya, because it also underscored a number of issues when it comes to the type of cities that we are building for the 21st century and heading into the next century as well. How much of that will actually inform how this MOU is explored or is carried out?
Yes, remember part of the work that we did in South Africa was to champion the Global Action Plan on eradication of informal dwelling and slums. The two countries bear similarities. If you look at, you can compare Nairobi and Johannesburg. Almost similarities. We have a lot of informal settlements that are people living in informality that are looking for opportunities in housing. So the work of the UN Habitat, especially around this Global Action Plan, remains critical in our work as we deal with urbanization. One of the areas, Aldrin, that I learned better with Nairobi and the delegation, even when I was in Nairobi in July, was the fact that in the country there, because they utilize a financial system better, it allows even people who are in the informal sector of the economy to be able to have records of their transaction, records of their income, and that allows them to even have participation in the areas such as rental stock and all those things, which in our country becomes a challenge because majority of those are not formally in the financial system. And when they look for opportunity to find that we can find records that they have some level of income, therefore they do not qualify for free BNGs or RDPs. Therefore, they should be in the tenanting. Now, the requirements then prohibits them to participate because they do not have formal documentation that proves their financial income. So it's those things that are good that we can be able to learn as we deal together in working to implement what UN Habitat has adopted, Assembly has adopted as Global Action Plan for eradicating informal settlement and slums.
And then on the question around the demand for settlements, especially in cities, and we know that Gauteng, of course, is dealing with a lot of that. Now, recently, we just reported on the 200 shacks in Palm Reach that have been demolished. But there is a clear need for land, a clear need for human settlements within the inner cities as well as surrounding areas of the inner city. What does Minister think the answer to that is? Is there a new way of looking at what human settlements look like heading into the future?
Definitely, Aldrin. There are two things. One, we've got to move away from wanting freestanding alone houses where you have a yard, especially in urban areas because there's no land availability. So the issue of high-rise building becomes one of the alternative ways to explore. But obviously we know the issue of climate change is here. So we've got to build those high-rise in a safe and that is climate resilient so that they do not become an issue into the future. That's the first thing. Number two, we've got quite a number of our inner cities. You know the Isindisweni, the building that bend in Marshalltown, where it's an inner city building where people can stay. And if we are to repurpose those buildings, I had a conversation with Johannesburg. They say they're working on a project plan to renovate those buildings so that they can be habitable, but also for human settlement purposes, where they can be converted, even if it's offices, they can be converted and repurposed for accommodation. I do believe that will go a long way in responding to the pressures in the urban city. The last point, the informal settlement upgrading grant that we provide to especially metros and to provinces. It's one of the ways where we're saying when people are already in the land, whether you talk about the project we're doing in Zanspruit, for example, here in Gauteng, Johannesburg, you will see that we've got a project there. Used to be people who used to protest every time closing the four-way route. Until then, we came in as government, started upgrading the site, creating service sites, and putting people that at least managed to get people to feel comfortable that there's work in progress. So there are various interventions that can be done.
A quick final one, Minister. You touched a bit on the M-Pesa in Kenya and also how the financial institutions would look at your finances to determine whether they can give you a loan, a home loan or not. And here in South Africa, one of the big issues is that some people, of course, don't qualify for those home loans. And even though the department has brought in a program that will allow that the people, the missing middle that we sometimes speak about when it comes to the property industry, is that rentals. Is the department looking or is government looking at all at the cost of rentals? And again, in Kenya, when I was there in 2018, the political parties there were campaigning against the high cost of rentals. Is this something that South Africa is looking into at all?
Yes, we currently have what we call our social housing. One of the projects that we took the minister today in Tshwane, and another part of it will take in River side tomorrow. It's rental stock. They are not rent to buy, they are rental purely. And what we do as government, we come in and provide a subsidy. So ordinarily, when a person would have paid 5,000 in rental, then they pay about 3,000, which is reduced to make it affordable. So that's the first thing. But again, the issue is not even only about about just the rental, and the issue of missing middle is serious. If we look at the category, and we've been having conversations with the banks, I'm hoping that before the next financial year, we'll have some level of solution. If we look at what we qualify, anyone below 3,500 qualifies for a BNG RDP. And then anyone who's earning between 3,500 and 22,000 will qualify for what we call first home financing. But anyone who's earning between 22,000 and 27,000 has no solution across, whether in commercial or in government, because those people are not covered. The banks are covering from 27,000 household income. So we still have a missing middle that has not been addressed. And the banks are saying for us as government, we need to increase from 22 to cover 27. We've done a bit of a study to it, and we realize that the numbers are shooting up highly, which means that we'll not have enough resources to cover for this market. And we are asking the banks, because they wanted to move it from 27 to 29. I said, we can't continue to increase the gap. We need to find a solution to this. So those are some of the conversations we continue to have with the BASA, and we're hoping that soon we'll have solutions.
And let's hope that we'll have the conversation again. Thank you so much. Minister of Human Settlements, Mamuluku Kubai. It's 2 minutes after 4:30. Time for the news headlines.
Thanks, Brother Aldrin. With your news headlines, Parliament's Public Enterprises Committee says it'll subpoena Minister Pravin Gordhan to appear before it. President Cyril Ramaphosa will appeal the ruling by the High Court in Pretoria, which set aside his recognition of the King of the Zulu Nation, Misuzulu. And island nations hard hit by climate change have expressed unhappiness about the new deal that has been agreed to on at the UN Climate Summit in Dubai after days of negotiations. And those are your headlines. Greg House will have your full update at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Major crash by the looks of things around Henop's Pride on the R511. So if you're in that part of sort of Gauteng Centurion territory, the 511 is queuing heavily both ways. Joburg side, a crash just after Winnie Mandela on the southbound N1. That's a heavy one from Sunning Hill as you line up through 4 ways on your way to Randburg. Crash at Galuli's interchange, N12 and R24 routes. A backlogging coming in from the east. And there's also a problem on the N3 north from Germiston through Bedfordview getting up into Galuli's. The situation with a fallen tree at Hilton on your way to Peter Maritzburg towards Howick. That seems to be sorted out. Bit of pressure around Spaghetti Junction today, the N2 north as well as the N3 coming in from Pavilion, all very slow. And a big crash, it looks like a multiple fatality scene just outside Heidelberg in the Western Cape. If you're on the N2 route today, going between Swellendam and Mossel Bay, just expect some delays at that scene. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Alrighty, in your sports this hour, Stellenbosch will rely on coach Steve Barker as they prepare for a maiden trophy. And since joining the Premiership on a Saturday afternoon, Stellies face Tears Galaxy in the Carling Knockout Final at Moses Mabhida Stadium. Barker, who has been at Stellies for over 6 years and oversaw the promotion from the National First Division, has witnessed all his team's highs, but he admits that this is a special occasion for the team from the Winelands.
It is, to put it sort of, when you play a league, and we won the league and got promoted the last match of the season, to get promoted was one of the biggest in the club's history, and we actually didn't win the game, but we got promoted, so that was a special occasion. And there's been other special occasions, the first time in the MTN quarterfinal at Chiefs with the stadium packed the way it was at the time, semi-finals against Pirates. So there's been some really special games, but there's none that we've played on the day that you win a trophy. So I think that makes it a very, very special match for the club. And yeah, looking forward to it.
In the meantime, Sekhukhune United coach Luthono Siyama has offered a different perspective on how the plans to adjust live at the club. Asked whether the upcoming AFCON break will give him ample time to implement his methodology, the newly appointed mentor explained that he intends to instead learn the Babina Noko way.
Me, I must adapt to Sekhukhune, not them adapting to me. So we are working here together, but a lot of positives that that we can say come the next year we will try to have worked on a lot of aspects, and I'm sure that this team will look different.
In rugby, Eddie Jones has been appointed Japan head coach for a second time. The former England coach led Japan between 2012 and 2015, which included the famous win over South Africa, and that was back in the 2015 World Cup. In September, Jones denied being interviewed for the Japan job days before taking Australia into the 2023 World Cup. The 63-year-old resigned as Wallabies coach in October after they failed to reach the knockout stages. Jones, whose mother and wife are Japanese, will begin the job at the start of January. Then in netball, former Diamonds captain Catherine Harvey-Williams says that a pay deal signed by Netball Australia and domestic league players marks a historic day. Players in Australia's Super Netball League had not been paid since their last contract expired in September, but a new 3-year deal brings the lengthy pay dispute to an end. The deal, which includes an 11% pay rise and a greater share of competition revenue for the players, comes after NA Chief Executive Kelly Ryan resigned from the governing body yesterday. Ending things off with cricket news, Travis Head was reappointed as vice captain of the Australian Test side as selectors look to the future, while Pakistan named 2 debutants for the opening clash in Perth. Head was added as a deputy alongside Steve Smith. Skipper Pat Cummins said in announcing a playing 11 with one change for their last test against England at the Oval in July. That will see fit again veteran spinner Nathan Lyon, who is 4 wickets away from joining the elite 500 club, retake his place ahead of Todd Murphy. But that's it. It's a wrap from my side. For SAFM Sport, I'm Dumin Kapele.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And it is time for a market update with Paswana Mphahlele, who's a senior portfolio manager at Markweb Fund Managers. Paswana, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Let's look at local and international market developments and also looking at those commodities.
Afternoon, Aldrin. We're looking at a South African consumer inflation that has eased in the month of November to 5.5%, breaking that upward trend we were seeing building up in the last 3 months. And the biggest contributor to this fall in inflation we're happy to see is the fuel prices, as the oil prices we've seen in the month of November were down by 5%. This has assisted transportation costs to drop and have also helped to offset the rise in food prices up by 9%. But this doesn't necessarily, when you actually consider other factors out of here, consider that the sub will actually cut rates, they will probably pause it as it holds at the moment. Meanwhile, retail sales made up of consumer spending, driven over 60% of the economy, has declined by 2.5% as consumer is spending to manage the standard of living. When you look at some global updates there, we see the UK GDP was down 0.3% in October, but when you look at it on a 3-month basis ending October compared to the other 3 months, it has been rather flat, and we see the pound showing some weakness based on that. Globally, we general market participants look ahead to the US interest rate decision later on today. Expectation is a pause at hand and no cuts to be on site. And the economy continues to slow. What will be more interesting is to hear him about what he has to say around growth and inflation and the general outlook and of the US economy. Looking at the markets going to this big decision, the US economy opened positively, but slightly up across the board. Europe was green with the FTSE up 0.3, DAX 0.1, CAC 1.6. Locally, the JSE managed to eke out gains up 0.3, financials up 1.3, industrials up 0.7, while our resources remain a dragger, down 1.2. Looking at those commodities, the gold price ahead of the decision is up 0.3 at $1,984 an ounce. Platinum was down at $921 an ounce, while oil was flat at $73.54 a barrel. Looking at the rand, relatively weaker going into the decision. Rand against the dollar sits at 19 rand and 4 cents. Against the euro, 20 rand 57 cents. And rand against the pound at 23 rand 88 cents. Aldrin.
Thank you so much. That is Paswana Mphahlele, Senior Portfolio Manager at Markweb Fund Managers. We're taking your calls on 086 000 2032 and your voice notes on 0614 104 107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Tabiso, come and say hello. Come and say hello. It's fine. There is Tabiso. Oh my word. Is this like a Christmas present, yeah? Yeah, is this like a early Christmas present? Hello, Tabiso.
Ah, Aldrin,
It's
are you putting me on air?
It's Tabiso of Radio
Are we on
2000. Yes, we're on air now.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Welcome.
I never thought
What are
I'd
you
get
doing-
this opportunity again.
What are you doing here?
I miss you guys. I miss you guys so much. I miss the show. I miss my colleagues. I miss my listeners. I miss everybody behind the scenes.
Oh, member. But the members are there as well.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
They're not the same members.
My heart is here.
Nice seeing you.
Are we on
man.
air?
Yes, we're on air. We're live on
Really?
air.
Yeah.
Not
Okay,
only,
well,
not only are we on air, but we're also streaming live on YouTube, Facebook.
Oh,
and
wow.
X.
You guys have grown, eh?
We've upgraded, brother.
Well done. I saw online your show is doing very well.
Thank you so much.
Well
Thank you
done.
so
I saw
much.
the downloads. You are number one at the whole of SABC.
Please
Well
don't
done
spread
with the
rumors
with the
here.
podcasts.
Don't spread
with the
rumors,
podcast
please.
downloads. So well done, guys. I'm glad I left the show. Well, I was always sure I left the show in
Maybe
good
you were
hands.
the one who was holding us back, eh?
I was about to say 2024 is our 2024. And I was holding you
How are
back.
you doing, man? It's nice seeing you.
No, it's great to see you too. I just came to kill some time.
Yeah, because you are that dedicated, eh? You see?
Yes,
A diligent, dedicated
No, I
man.
just came to say goodbye to the guys in case I don't see them until next year.
Oh, actually,
In
now
case
that
I don't see
now
you
that we
until
have you
next
here, money and sports.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They go hand in hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Eh?
Why? Why do you
We were
ask?
speaking about Sundowns, and I was asking whether the money that Sundowns has at its disposal plays any role in its ability to have all of these winning streaks and the plans, the structures that they're able to put together, and the resources that they have access to. What's your take on it?
Jeez, Aldrin, you're putting me on the spot. Money will always help. Money will always help in any way, but I think what Sundowns have also done is having the right people in their structures, in the right positions. For example, other clubs also have money, but Sundowns have a technical director that's got a solid football background, that's been with Chelsea, that's been with the national team federation also, even in their youth
How
structures.
much do they pay him?
Pay him a lot of money.
Ah, okay.
That's why you can go overseas to scout for players and bring those players overseas. So money helps, but you also need to have the right people
The right
in the
people.
right positions. And I think they've got a fantastic young coach there who is really, really way ahead of the times.
I
at
love
the
his
moment. He's
ambition,
taking South African football to another level. So that helps also.
Yeah. I love Rulani's ambition. So that ambition
Have him on
does
the
play.
show. Get him on the
Should
show.
I?
Yeah,
Should
you
we try?
Should be a
Okay.
good interview because I think you'll be able to get things out of him that maybe we can't because we always look at it from one side, from the sporting side of it. And
Okay.
I think you can get much more out of him because he's an interesting person, even outside the field.
Okay, Temba Kanya, let's put in a request and let's see whether Rulani will agree to come and join us on Beyond the Headline. Tabiso, thank you so much for being a co-coach.
Yeah, Cashman Radio 2000, 6 to 7 tonight.
Bye-bye. Oh, there's somebody wants to say something here. Just hold on quickly.
Aldrin Sampear, how are you and the production team? Hey, it's Kenneth. Hey, yeah, hey, please to hear Tabiso there.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, eh? Hey, we're missing this man. Ah, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so you're missed as well. So
Yeah, thanks.
there you
guys.
have your members are missing you.
2024 is our 2024.
Thank you. Not 1994 is 2024 is our 1994. Hey, Azonkwatela, my fighters and Rise Mzansi. 0614104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. And our studio line is 086 000 2032.
It's in the weight it carries. So much, yet so very little. So desperately sought, yet so minimal the search. In places run dry and those in flood. In things that rip, yet keep us whole. In the fractured, where cures await. In planets cupped in little palms. In minds young and aflame. In the reach of those dare not reach. In things pulled down, stretching for sky. In steps with purpose, with no direction. In possibilities, dancing just for you. In familiar yearnings, yearning for familiarity. In eyes kept forever on you, so nothing is strange. Yes, it's in hope. Hope in light pulled near and sent afar. Yes, hope from us to you. SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Join us on Afternoon Express Tuesdays at 6 p.m. on S3. As being alone this festive season is what clinical psychologist Sleeben Bata is here to help us with. Gynecologist Sherry Lee Franks has tips to keep your digestive and urinary tract healthy, plus get genius gifting and fashion ideas. On Afternoon Express Tuesdays at 6 p.m, repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m. only on S3.
SAFM is sharing the festive spirit by giving away 5,000 Rand to 10 lucky winners. To enter, SMS SAFM Festive, followed by your name and what the festive season means to you to 41391. And you could win. Tune in to SAFM throughout December and we could be calling you. SMSs are charged at R1.50. Free SMSs, free minutes and SMS bundles do not apply. Terms and conditions apply. Visit safm.co.za for more information. You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
Aldrin, it's Tawanya Makai. Great show. I'm enjoying the live stream. I get to see to me. You know, I always see to me on TV, and I never got the chance to see her live on radio. So yesterday and today, I get to see how she reads the sports bulletin. Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. But I'm a news reader, guys. I'm a news reader. Next time, please show us news readers. They're in a different studio, but yeah, at least take a camera, then we will us whenever for the news. Anyway, great show, guys, and keep it up. Keep it up, my gents. Sharp.
Hi, Aldrin. When you talk about this issue of public servants who are doing health service work, those people that are committed to do their work when it comes to the assisting the public. But when it comes to the payment, how are they going to take so long to pay them? As far as we know that the staff is shorting, there's a shortage of staff in the organization. So how could they not aid the staff members so that those people that are not going to work more than hours? There are lots of people who are sitting outside, graduates doesn't have work, while they are sitting at home. But the Department of Health doesn't to hire people, but to use people without paying them. What it means. Somehow, our government is doing the other way, the other things in the way of undermine citizens.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. Floros here from the Western Cape. Aldrin, with regards to the ferrying farm workers on trucks. This has been a conversation that has been coming on for a long time. Every time an accident happens, everyone who's who in the business is up in arms. 2 weeks after, everything dies down. It starts with the farmer. It starts with the local municipality with bylaws, no people being ferried on trucks. And then the traffic department must look out for these things. How many lives must we still lose?
Yeah.
I live in an area where every day I see these people squeeze like pomegranate pips and like animals. A farmer can just hire a bus and it will save him so much money on services and diesel for their trucks. That's the solution. I know I have first-hand experience of this. Have a good show. Bye.
Yeah, but what are the rules when it comes to construction workers? Because construction workers, sometimes you find them being clammed into trucks as well. Lorraine is joining us from KwaZulu-Natal. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Aldrin, to you and the listeners. Thanks for taking my call. I just want to say kudos to Minister Kobai regarding the housing project.
Yeah.
She's really got herself stuck deep into that. You know, I admire her for that. I'm not an ANC supporter, but we need to pay dues where dues are required. I'm a little bit concerned about a lot of things. One of them, she's talking about high-rise buildings. We know from a social perspective, people living too close to each other, just exactly what that does to communities.
Yeah.
We should have learned a lesson from that. But I'm not going to go on and on and on as much as I'd like to. But can we have on the air more?
Yes, definitely. We'll try to bring her on air. I actually wanted to raise that point with her as well, Lorraine, around the high-rise buildings, and we know the impact that the high-rise buildings have had, for instance, on the Cape Town and the Cape Flats, and then the impact it has had in the Bronx in the USA. Because if you have people who live on top of each other, especially people who don't necessarily have economic power and disposable income and so forth, what sort of socio-economic conditions are you breeding there? What are some of the risks that could potentially come out of that as well? So 0614104107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086 000 2032.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
So we speak to Bertus van der Wyver, who is MTN South Africa GM Residential, as we talk about MTN's new fiber offering that was launched not so long ago. According to Bertus, the MTN fiber is redefining the way their customers connect and communicate, and in an increasingly digitized world. And Bertus now joining us on the line. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Good afternoon, Alan. Good afternoon to the listeners.
So tell us why MTN decided to go the MTN fiber route, and also what exactly is the MTN fiber?
Yes, so with the fiber footprint in South Africa that's really growing, month on month, more and more customers have access to fiber, and that means that the need from customers also increasing. And we actually had thousands of customers, and many of them MTN customers, saying that we've been able to buy the latest technology from MTN for many, many years, but why can't we buy fiber from MTN? And we said that makes absolute sense. So we said, let's really make MTN fiber available to customers that really love the brand and that have been loyal to us for many, many years.
Speak to us about how you're bridging the digital divide.
Yeah, so as many of us will know, historically fiber was primarily been built in the, shall I say, leafy suburbs where maybe the more wealthy people stayed. But fortunately, at this stage, MTN Fiber has access to more than 4 million homes in South Africa, where now it means that a lot more customers have access to fiber. So now it's not just maybe the wealthy that have access to fiber, but people like you and me that can actually maybe only afford a few $100 a month can now actually have fiber to really kind of experience, next level gaming, next level streaming, etc. So really from as little as just about $200 or $300 a month, people can actually have fiber with MTN.
Sorry, just say that again. From around how much?
From 249. So we're currently running a promotion that from as little as 249 rand, customers can get fiber. So really making it very, very affordable.
Okay. So just again, Bertus, maybe an explanation again. So what's the difference between fiber connectivity and connectivity that you'll get over the phone, perhaps, or maybe sometimes you have a dongle?
Yes. So fiber connectivity is really known for really, really high speeds and reliability. So when you use fiber on your phone, often we are used to maybe buying, a gig of data or 5 gigs or 10 gigs or something. And, if you really want to kind of do online gaming, or you want to spend the whole, public holiday watching, your favorite
binge watching,
then using data on your mobile phone could really become quite challenging. So I think that is where fiber and for that matter 5G comes into play, where actually customers don't buy gigabytes anymore. You buy a service that gives you uncapped internet, so you can probably be on the internet all day, streaming all day, so customers are buying speed on fiber and 5G. So you're buying a speed, let's say 10 megabits or 50 megabits or 100 megabits a second. So you're buying a speed, whereas on mobile, you typically buy gigabytes. You buy 1 gigabyte or 5 gigabytes. So that's the key difference. So the way you buy, and then obviously on fiber, really known for reliability, whereas maybe wider services sometimes can get slow here and there. With fiber, it's really reliable. It's fast and it's reliable.
Yeah. So some of the factors that the customer would need to take into consideration when deciding to buy home connectivity, what are those?
Yes. So, and for many customers that buy fiber for the first time, it could feel a bit daunting. But really, things to consider is how many people will use the internet concurrently at the same time. Is it maybe just one or two people, or is it maybe a family of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people? So the more people that will use internet at the same time, it typically means that you will need to buy a speed that's a bit faster. So instead of buying a 10 or 20 megabits per second service, maybe you're going to have to buy a 30 or a 50 megabits service. The second thing is probably what you're going to use it for. If it's the odd, Facebook, social media, or reading news, email, that kind of stuff, then entry-level speed of 10 or 20 megabits per second is fine. But if you want to do binge watching and there's maybe 2 or 3 people that wants to watch shows at the same time, online gaming, then really rather opt for speeds that's much faster, like 30 or 50 or 100 megabits per second.
Then when it comes to the ordering, because, let's say somebody hears this message or this interview now and says that perhaps now I want to get MTN fiber. When it comes to the ordering and also the connectivity and connecting the household to fiber, how long does it take?
Yeah, so it depends on different regions. So in some instances, we've got customers that order their fiber today, and literally you can probably be up and running in 3 days' time. So with fiber, it is something where somebody will come out to your house and drill a hole through your wall maybe and install a router. So, but the journey always starts with fiber.mtn.co.za. That's where it starts, and you say, where do you live? And then the system will tell you at your address which fiber options are available for you. So fiber.mtn.co.za is always a good place to start, and then the online journey will really help you to select the best plan and understand what is available for you.
And for people who have problems, that's the same website that they can go to.
Exactly the same website. Yeah, the benefit of fiber is like I said earlier, it's not affected by stormy weather and those kind of things, or copper theft and those type of things. So really, really reliable. There needs to be something big wrong, like somebody chopped off a cable with a big tractor or something. But generally, fiber, once it's working, it's always available.
Finally, you did touch a bit on this a bit earlier on, and that is looking at some of the promotions that you have available. How affordable?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier. So what's important with fiber. Different fiber network operators have different promotions running in different areas at any stage. So some people may have access to Vumatel or to OpenServe fiber or to Frogfoot fiber. So we are currently running a special promotions where customers can save up to 150 Rand a month, actually, for the first 3 months. Some of the lowest cost offerings as low as 249. So really use this time, if you're not going on holiday or something, you can really have access to uncapped internet for the whole of December if you want to. Just go to fiber.mtn.co.za.
Thank you so much for your time. That is Bertus van der Wyfer, who is MTN SAGM Residential on the new offerings. This is now the MTN Fiber, and as indicated, if you want to get your hands on one of them, go on to www.fiber.mtn.co.za, and that's where you can get more details around how you can place your order. And that interview proudly brought to you by MTN. 0614-104-107. You can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Our studio line is 086-000-2032. When we come back, we touch on that conversation that we spoke about but earlier on, and that is in relation to the call that has been made by COSATU in the Western Cape, saying that the Minister of Labour, Thulas Nxesi, must enforce the ban on the transportation of farm workers on trucks, and this is following an accident that happened that claimed the lives of 3 farm workers. And after that, we speak to Khanyisa Diamond, Head of System Capacity Support and Advisory at the National Education Collaboration Trust, as we look at the National Education Collaboration Trust hosting its first leg of the National Early Childhood Development Dialogue. That conversation coming up at 4:20. It's 5 o'clock, 5:20 rather. It's 5 o'clock. It's time for the news with Greg Host. Good evening. What?
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Good day and thank you, Aldrin. In this news update, Gordon to be summoned to Parliament and unhappiness over climate summit deal. Good day to you. Parliament's Public Enterprises Committee says it will subpoena the Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan to appear before it. The committee says it wants to force him to disclose all the relevant documents regarding the bidding process to acquire an equity partner for South African Airways. This follows after Parliament's legal services told the committee that the minister refused to comply with its probe into allegations of irregularities during the process of evaluating a preferred bidder. Takatso Consortium was finally elected as the preferred bidder, with the potential to acquire a 51% shareholding stake in SAA. Committee Chairperson Kailethu Mugaka.
From here, we're supposed to write to subpoena the minister. While we give this, but we have to continue subpoenaing the minister. We cannot just go to ad hoc committee without having gone to that legal support in the form of subpoenaing a person, forcing a person legally to something. I think first we have to undergo that process.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will appeal the ruling by the High Court in Pretoria, which set aside his recognition of the Zulu monarch, Misizulu Kazwelithini. The High Court found that Ramaphosa didn't follow due processes in accordance with customary law and traditions. The ruling further stated that the president must appoint an investigative committee to probe this. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says while Ramaphosa appeals the judgment, King Misizulu will remain the identified heir to the throne.
Following a study of the judgment, the president will apply for leave to appeal against this judgment. During the course of these legal processes, His Majesty King Misizulu remains the identified heir to the throne.
Meanwhile, historian and cultural expert Kain Dwandwe says the decision by the High Court to set aside President Ramaphosa's recognition of King Misizulu as monarch is likely to cause divisions within the Zulu nation. He elaborates.
King Shaka went to KwaZulu from Mthethwa to take over kingship from Skujana. When Shaka was on the throne, his half-brother, Dingane, helped it by Mhlangana, stepped Dingane to death. And this incident continued until the battle between Mbande's son, Tejwayo, and Mbuyaza at Ndondaksu. All of them used the spear to take over kingship.
SA National Park says it will ensure that visitors to the Table Mountain Park are safe. It's outlined its festive season safety and security plans in Cape Town. There have been several incidents recently of muggings of hikers, cyclists and tourists on the mountain. Sandpark's managing executive, Property Mokwena, says 43 million rand will be added to upgrade infrastructure.
I just want to assure you that as Sandparks and Table Mountain National Park, we stand ready for the festive season, and we want to ensure our visitors that they will enjoy this festive season without any challenge.
Island nations hard hit by climate change have expressed unhappiness about the new deal that has been agreed on at the UN Climate Summit in Dubai after days of talks. The bloc of 39 island states says the agreement doesn't go far enough, with a delegate from Samoa adding that the deal was made without them in the room. For the first time, the deal calls on all countries to move away from using fossil fuels, but not to phase them out, something many governments wanted. The head of the Marshall Islands delegation is John Silk.
I came from my home island to work with you to solve the greatest challenge of our generation. I came here to build a canoe together. We had built a canoe with a weak and leaky hull, full of holes. Yet we had to put it into the water because we had no other option.
Top story, Parliament's Public Enterprises Portfolio Committee says it will subpoena the Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan to appear before it. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khuz.
In your sports, Sundowns all set to take down Spurs. Recovering Kyrgios, tired of playing tennis, and head named vice captain as Australia look to the future. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And it's still very slow, very heavy, in fact, on the M1 South. It's been a bad week, this drive time for N1 South traffic. There's a crash between Winnie Mandela and Malabong, where the traffic's heavy right back into Buccleuch interchange territory. Also, a crash at Van Buren Road, just off the highway, so a lot of congestion in the Bedfordview area. Highway's fairly busy, and that crash on Van Buren causing some delays off the highway as well. N1 North around Pretoria doesn't look too bad today. It's moving quite nicely. Durban, couple of issues with hold-ups around Spaghetti Junction. The N2 North is slow, and the N3 coming in from Pavilion Mall to join into the N2 to go north. Very slow as well. Breakdown near Linfield Park on your way to Pietermaritzburg, so that's quite slow. And a major crash, multiple fatalities just outside Cape Town. It's in the Western Cape on the N2 between Heidelberg and Riversdale. So if you're moving between Swellendam and Mossel Bay, there will be some disruption there for a while to work your way through slowly. Cape Town today, all fairly normal, but the N1 inbound, it may be seasonal. N1 inbound from Justenburg through Kraaifontein towards Brackenfell is quite slow and sluggish and busy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
The award-winning SAFM playwriting competition is back.
Piece of good news for writers out there.
SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound.
Dr. Jerry Mufokeng Wamaketa is head judge of the competition.
And you ask the question, who? And I want to say everybody, young, old, black, white.
For a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. Beyond the Headline with Aldrin Sampear on SAFM. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
It's 8 minutes after 5 o'clock. Coming up on the show in this hour, we speak to the Provincial Secretary of COSATU in the Western Cape, Malvin De Bruyn, as we look at their call, calling on the Minister of Labour, Tula Singlesi, to enforce the ban on transportation of farm workers. And this is following an accident where 3 farm workers were killed, and they were actually in a truck. So that conversation is coming up in the next short while. The incident happened on Tuesday in Philadelphia. And then at 20 past 5, the conversation that we're going to have is a focus on the President's intention to appeal the North Gauteng High Court's decision to set aside the certification of King Misizulu Kazolithini as the head of the Zulu monarch. We'll be speaking to Advocate Tepo Mujapilu, who is the director of Mujapili Attorneys. What are the prospects of success if the president takes this order on appeal? 0614 104 107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear.
Hello, Aldrin. This is Tepisa. I agree with you 100%. Money, it does become an enabler, like as you put it. I work in a space where it's actually dominated by young, white children. And guess what? Even like they are in the ages of, also like people of color are part of that grouping. They're in the ages of 15 to 22. Trust me, even the language usage in that space is completely different. What they talk about, what they discuss among themselves, their plan, it's rich language. So money does. If you have money, money opens doors as well. You know, if you want to apply at Harvard, for instance, if your dad has donated a certain amount to build a lab at Harvard, you won't even go through the process of, you know, having to worry about being admitted or not. Automatically you will be, because of the wealth of your parents. That is a reality. Money does make the world go round. This is Tepis.
Aldrin is not only about that they were told to work overtime only. They are also in the essential services, if they are the nurses. in the health. They're in the essential service. Sometimes if you refuse and somebody passed on or die, whatever, critical position of their health, you may be held liable. You know, I remember when I was doing labor law, the company that deal with frozen food, the delivery truck arrived very late when they are about to knock off, and they were asked to work overtime, and they refused. The owner went outside and asked other people in the street to offload those things, and the truck left because it had to leave and pass. When they came back the following day, they were told there's no more work because they refused to work overtime because it was operational requirement. And when they went to court, they lost it because the judge said things would have got spoiled and the company would have gone under. Golden Pulkwan.
That's an interesting one, maybe a conversation and an aspect to look into. Can you refuse to work overtime if you feel there's no guarantee that you will actually be paid for that overtime? Legally, can you say no? Irrespective of the industry that you're in, and maybe also looking at industry-specific approaches to the question around overtime. Maybe a conversation that we'll put on the agenda.
Hi, Aldrin and the team. Cleo from Mofolo there has a point regarding political leaders and stuff. There's no way that all these people are so interested in saving South Africans. There's no way that they want to sacrifice themselves at the altar so that other people can gain. No, they are looking for personal gain. That is what all politicians do. Look at what we do. We pay taxes so that they live more lavishly than we do. They make laws that they don't even abide by. They run around in blue lights. We elect them, and the second thing they want, they get bodyguards to guard them against who? The very same people who elect them into positions of power. So they must never, that's why I always tell people, these guys must never call themselves servants. In fact, we are their servants. Look at it. We serve them. They don't serve us. Anonymous here.
#SAFMBTH.
In conversation next with Malvin de Bruyn, who is the Provincial Secretary of COSATU in the Western Cape, who have called on the Labour Minister, Thulas Nxesi, to enforce the ban on the transportation of farm workers on trucks. This follows a horrific and fatal accident which claimed the lives of 3 farm workers and 70 others injured near the Philadelphia on Tuesday. And Malvin now joining us on the line. Malvin, good evening. Thank you so much for making time for us. Before we get into the call that you are making, what happened in this accident?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, what we've informed is that the truck lost control and it left the road. So that's what we were informed yesterday, because we went to the event, to the incident, to have an assessment what did happen. So 3 people. Yeah, 3 workers lost their lives, farm workers, and there was close to 70 people on the truck. And we informed that the majority of them were taken to hospital for further treatment. So it was quite a serious accident that happened yesterday morning.
Okay. And this is ordinarily the type of transportation that would be used when these farm workers go to work or are from work?
Yeah, that's the sad reality. What we confronted with in the Western Cape is that the majority of farm owners or farmers is using trucks, open trucks, to transport workers to and from work. We've raised that issue before, even in last year, January. There was also a big accident where people lost their lives in the Worcester area. We've met even with the MPLs in the legislature to see how we can address this matter. And it's quite clear that we sit with a province that is not really serious when it comes to farm workers, because their interest is mostly the farm owners. So that's why we made the call even last year that the minister must enforce the banning of transporting workers on open trucks, because that is a ticking time bomb.
Yeah. What about the municipality? Why isn't the municipality enforcing that?
They all shifted to national government. When you raise the issue, they shifted. No one wants to take responsibility because all these municipalities, a majority of them are controlled by the DA, and for them, the interests of farm owners are the most important. Even yesterday, when we were at the scene, I'm not sure if it's a farm owner or a manager, he came there. He was more worried about the truck and had an issue with us taking pics of the truck. He wasn't concerned of how many people died, how many people went to hospital, etc. And I think that's what the challenge we confronted with when it comes to farm owners. Not all of them, but majority of them don't care how they transport workers to and from work. And workers don't have a choice. They will just have to get to the truck because if they refuse to go into the truck, they'll just get someone else. And I think that's the issue that needs to be addressed. We can't keep quiet and year after year people are dying while we know that they can't transport people on trucks. So the national minister must really intervene to ensure that we curb the killing of farm workers on these death threats.
So what would your solution then be to make sure that farm workers still get to work and are still able to get home? What sort of transportation do you think should be used?
What we proposed even last is that farm owners should engage like taxi associations, engage them to see if they can assist with transporting their staff in and out. Because then now we know there's a cost factor involved, but then the parties must go to the table and see how best we can work around the cost factor. Because we all know farm workers are not really earning a lot of money. But farm owners can do more, or even they can buy combis or buses and assist the workers by taking them to work and back, because they are making money. But workers are the ones that must suffer at the end of the day with their lives.
All right. Also now, considering that you're saying that this is something that you've raised last year already, what are the chances of your call being heeded this time around?
Okay, what we also did, before I respond to that one, we've also sent a letter to the South African Human Rights Commission, and we received confirmation that they received our communication for them to investigate, because we feel that there's infringement on workers. And on your question per se is that we will also set up a meeting with the minister to directly engage him to make sure that they should work on legislation to ensure that this thing that they ban this thing. And we'll also engage our provincial, the premier, and even the mayor of the city of Cape Town, for them also come to the party, because they are seeing what's happening. They go there, convey condolences, and that's where it stops. You don't see they come back and say, let's sit and talk. How best can we remedy the situation? Because we are confronted with a crisis year after year when people are dying on these open trucks.
Yeah.
Because if that truck turns full or capsized, there's no support for you. You'll be off the truck. To be there, we are so sad when we were there yesterday. You could see people, their workers' food lying all over the show.
Yeah,
all over the field where the truck was lying.
So there's a text here via WhatsApp from Michelle who says that I'm a farmer's wife and often give people hitching a lift to our little town on the back of my bakkie, so I'll stop doing that. Where's the government when it comes to public transport in rural areas? What's your response to that?
Yeah, I think we can't blame Michelle from doing so, but we haven't been raising this thing. An open truck is not a mode of transport for workers. And I think that's the bottom line, the issue that we need to confronted with. And I think municipalities and government should play a bigger role to ensure that we have at least a system in place where we have maybe taxis or buses that are transporting workers to work and back. So that we say we need to come to the table that Labour, provincial government, national government, the city, to work around a solution to ensure that our workers are safe when they go to work.
Thank you so much for your time. That is the Provincial Secretary of COSATU, Melvin De Bruin. 0614-104107, your ex at Aldrin Sampear. Remember that we are also live on Facebook as well as YouTube, so you can comment on those two pages as well, and we'll read those comments from there as well.
Yeah, actually, my take on this thing about the farm workers, it's long overdue, man. You can't transport people like they're cattle, even if it's construction workers or anybody. Decent transport should be otherwise the company must, I don't know what can I say, but you can't. because the risks are too high. And look at the people losing their lives for what? I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's long overdue. It must be overhauled for every sector, actually. If it's not safe transportation, then they can't be taken there where they're supposed to go, unless it's proper transportation. Come on, man. We are carrying people, not cattle here, man.
Hi, Aldrin. Legally, you have the right to say no to working overtime. You have rights of refusal to work, depending on what is written on the contract. But you can refuse to work overtime, especially when it gets to the point where you are going above the legal limit of, or you're exceeding the legal limit of hours you're supposed to work. But in practice, it doesn't work like that, because essentially when you start doing that, then you are just setting a trap for yourself, because it just disintegrates the relationship between you and your manager. And things might not go very smoothly from there on.
And you run the risk of becoming a victim of constructive dismissal.
Good afternoon, Adrian and the listeners. Man, if my memory serves me well, this law or this practice of carrying people in trucks, it was banned a long time ago. It even went as far as the taxis, like the high aces. They had to be install even the seat belts on the high aces. This thing of carrying people in trucks when they're going to work in the farm, it was banned a long time ago. I'm not sure if someone can remind me.
Hello, Aldrin. This is Tepisa. I agree with you.
Aldrin is not only about that they were told to work overtime only. They are also in the essential services. If they are the nurses in the health, they are in the essential service. Sometimes if you refuse and somebody passed on or die, whatever.
Aldrin, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to your team and to the SFM listeners. Look, Aldrin, there's this saying that goes like, money can't buy you happiness. That's wrong. Money will buy you happiness, Aldrin. Look at Sundowns now. It's all about money. Just look at where they are. Look at all the big teams in the world. You know, the more they spend, the more successful they become. You just mentioned the example of Trevor Noah. It's all about money, you know. So money will buy you happiness, Aldrin. Money will buy you happiness. I'm happy when I have money. I'm very happy when I've got money. Like, I'm happy. I'm happy. It's Edward in Mpumalanga.
I have previously asked people if Peter Musimani is or was the best that he or we all claim that he is today before he got to Sundowns. And I can assure you one thing, Peter wouldn't have failed as dismally as he did at Bafana Bafana had Bafana Bafana invested in what they were supposed to invest in, which is development, which requires money. That's number one. Number two, Peter, when he got to Sundowns, he was given a checkbook. That's what we all know. And then through that checkbook, Peter struggled to assemble a team for a couple of maybe years or months. And then I remember at one point where fans were very, very violent against him. But immediately after that, once that checkbook started working for him, Peter was suddenly the best in Africa. And now he can compete with the best in the world. That's all.
You are listening to Aldrin Sampear on SAFM.
0614-104-107, and you can also drop me an X at Aldrin Sampear. Let's speak to Advocate Tsepo Mojapelo, who is the director of Mojapelo Attorneys, Inc. So President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to appeal the North Gauteng High Court decision to set aside the certification of King Misuzulu Kazolitini as the head of the Zulu monarch. In a press statement, the president has called on all members of the royal family to continue working for the interest of His Majesty's subjects. What are the implications of this decision on the investigative committee? We now speak to Advocate Mojapelo. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Good afternoon, Aldrin. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's first start with the court judgment before we deal with the appeal. What's your take around how the court dealt with this dispute, and even though that this matter was also before the Pietermaritzburg court, which dealt with the part around the rightful heir to the throne, which said that Misizulu is actually the rightful heir to the throne. However, though, this court has said, this is now the Pretoria High Court has said that let there be a committee that is set up through the Traditional and Khoisan Act.
Yes. So I think the bone of contention, both judgments, right, they refer to a central issue that has been going on in the Zulu nation as to whether or not King Misizulu is the actual rightful heir. Now, why those are still coming forward in this judgment again is because that issue stems from the recognition of the king as he is now, Misizulu, whether or not he is supposed to be on the throne. Now, what that brings into the fore is that in terms of Section 8 of the Traditional and Khoisan Leadership Act, right, it states that if there is any allegation or if there is a dispute around the king or the appointment or the nomination of that king, that dispute must be dealt with by way of investigation before the president can actually recognize fully or rather to accept the nomination and then recognize the king or the nomination as the king of the nation. Now, if that issue is not dealt with, it means then that the recognition aspect of that would be incomplete and would need to be reviewed. So this judgment now in the Pretoria High Court deals exactly with that, whether or not the president, in his recommendation or in his recognition, rather, is the right word, was correct to recognize the King Misizulu as the Isilu of the Zulu nation.
So what's the intention then, again, of setting up a committee, yet in the North Gauteng High Court, the judge says they accept the finding of the Pietermaritzburg High Court around who the rightful heir to the throne is. Yet there is now an order to have a committee that's going to be investigating the claims that are being made. And does that committee really have the power to overturn a high court judgment?
The essence of the committee, or what their job is to investigate an allegation. Now, the allegation came because in June, I think it was in 2021, there was a letter and there were other letters that were sent to, Aldrin, that were sent to the president, basically stating that there is a dispute with regards to the way in which the nomination was made. Now, if we look at the act as it states now, it says that the custom, the Zulu nation in this instance, would have to nominate according to the customary laws that are practiced in the Zulu nation. They would have to come and say to the president that, President, this is the person that we nominate for them to take the throne of king, according to the customs that they have followed. Now, the letters that were sent as allegations that that process was not followed seem to take away at what or how that process was actually done. Now, if that process was not done in terms of the correct customary law, then those allegations stand, and the investigation of those by the president would be able to give a clearer picture as to, one, were the customs followed, the Zulu customs followed in that nomination process, and are they correct?
Yeah. I still have a difficulty though, like if the committee was to come and say that actually the process that was followed was not correct, and if the president accepts that report, what happens to the Pietermaritzburg High Court ruling?
The Pietermaritzburg High Court ruling only dealt with whether or not Misizulu is the rightful heir. Now, those are two separate issues because according to the Zulu customs, if Misizulu is a son of the late Goodwill Zulu team. Now, by that, he automatically becomes one of those that can take up the throne. Now, if we're dealing with, and this court did say that they don't want to deal with the issue of the air, because that's also an issue that if it goes on appeal and will be challenged or can be challenged, that will be something to be decided. But for purposes of this judgment, they accept that King Mrs. is the rightful heir because that is not in dispute here. Now, if you want me to answer whether or not the committee that will change that aspect, that's a different whole new aspect, because like I'm saying, according to the Zulu customs, the nomination or the appointment of an Isilo to take over as the king of the Zulu nation is done in terms of the customary law. Now, if the customary law was followed, then there's no issue. If it wasn't followed and there is an investigation to say that it was not followed, it usually goes back to the nation for them to do that process again and identify and provide clarity as to who they should be or what should have been done and what the requirements, if you may, were used for the Isilo to be selected.
Thank you so much for your time. Tsepo Mujabilu, Director of Mujabilu Attorneys Inc. Unfortunately, as we just said, that the President has issued this statement of his intention to actually appeal this High Court judgment. But now we wait for the reasons why the President wants to appeal the judgment, and also we'll be looking into the appeal application and see what are some of the issues that the President is attacking in that application. It's a minute after 5:30, time for the news headlines.
Quick look at the headlines. Parliament's Legal Services has described the process which sought to acquire an equity partner for SAA as shrouded in secrecy. The investigating officer says Agnes Sejwanso is accused of murder, 2 counts of fraud and defeating the ends of justice is a flight risk and should therefore not be granted bail. And the Gauteng Premiers welcomed the announcement by the Justice Minister to designate the crime prevention wardens as peace officers. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Reasonably heavy today on Joburg's Mike 1 South. There's a lot of traffic between Sant and Grayston Drive to the Call It Drive territory and the Crown Interchange. The N3 coming off the Clue is all of a sudden very busy down through Limborough Park, down towards the London Road exit. And then you just pick up some more traffic as you move through Edenvale down in towards Bedford. The N1 North through Midrand and on to Pretoria looking fine. The run through to Polokwane, if you're on that route ahead of the big volume that's going to come through tomorrow, you've picked a good afternoon to be doing it. The road is open and clear. Durban, the N3 going inbound towards Spaghetti Junction was busier earlier around sort of Pavilion Mall. It's sluggish rather than heavy now. Pietermaritzburg down to Cato Ridge looking fine both ways. A lot of congestion around Chotamatala and around Northdale. Some real heavy traffic that side of Pietermaritzburg today. Cape Town, the Greenpoint area, very busy, particularly inbound towards a very heavily congested Bayton truck going out towards the elevated freeway, and a major fatal crash inland. It's on the N2 between Riversdale and Heidelberg. Traffic is being backed and stacked in very heavy conditions both ways. It may be like that for some time. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
In your sports this hour, Mamelodi Sundowns will be looking to seal 11 wins in a row when they take on Cape Town Spurs, and the DStv Premiership. A win for Sundowns would mean that coach Rulani Mokoena has completed a full circle of taking points against every opponent in the league since taking over as sole head coach. The 3 points will take the Brazilians to 33, stretching their lead at the top 8 with the comfort of 3 games in hand over Cape Town City. And Sundowns remain unbeaten in the league, 30 games since Mokoena took over, and will have Spurs as the last team that they haven't beaten since the young coach took over. In the meantime, Stellenbosch FC will rely on coach Steve Barker as they prepare for a maiden trophy. Since joining the Premiership on Saturday afternoon, Stellies will face TS Galaxy in the Carling Knockout final at Moses Mabhida Stadium. Barker, who has been at Stellies for over 6 years and oversaw the promotion from the National First Division, has witnessed all of this team's highs, but admits that this is a special occasion for the team from the Winelands.
It is, to put it sort of, when you play a league, and we won the league and got promoted the last match of the season, to get promoted was one of the biggest in the club's history, and we actually didn't win the game, but we got promoted, so that was a special occasion. There's been other special occasions, you know, the first time in the MTN quarterfinal at Chiefs with the stadium packed the way it was at the time, semi-finals against Pirates. So, you know, there's been some really special games, but there's none that we've played on the day that you win a trophy. So I think that makes it a very, very special match for the club. And, yeah, looking forward to it.
So staying with football, Newcastle United boss Eddie Howe wants tonight's crucial Champions League clash with AC Milan to be another magical European night for his side as they bid to secure qualification from Group F. United take on the Italian giants, knowing a win could make sure of their place in Group F's top two, thereby making sure of their place in the knockout stages. But their hopes also depend on the outcome of Borussia Dortmund's clash with Paris Saint-Germain in the group's other final game, with the stage set for what could be an absorbing night.
Yeah, I think we're very positive going into the game. I think, as you say, it's got all the hallmarks of being a very special night. I think all we can do, quite predictably, is try and win the game and try and give our best performance, and that we'll give everything to try and do that.
In rugby, Eddie Jones has been appointed Japan head coach for a second time. The former England coach led Japan between 2012 and 2015, which included the famous win over South Africa at the 2015 World Cup. In September, Jones denied being interviewed for the Japan job, days after taking Australia into the 2023 World Cup. The 63-year-old resigned as Wallabies coach in October after they failed to reach the knockout stages. Still staying with rugby, the Stormers' first game of the season at the Cape Town Stadium promises to be a cracker when they welcome Champions Cup title holders La Rochelle to the mother city on Saturday. As the champions of South Africa taking on the champions of Europe in the first Rugby 15s match on the refurbished pitch. The Stormers are fired up to log their first Champions Cup victory of the season after giving an excellent account of their depth on the first round in Leinster. Then in tennis, Nick Kyrgios says that he's quite tired and does not want to play tennis anymore as he continues to recover from injury. The 28-year-old missed all 4 majors in 2023 because of a wrist, knee and foot injury. And on Saturday, Kyrgios said that he will not take part in the Australian Open in January because of his injury concerns. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. Don't forget to tune in to our sports show, Top Sports, with Michael Abramson. That's from 7 till 8 p.m. Other than that, I'm doing Kapele Mudimugyo.
Get your payments done with the utmost security and convenience when you purchase a TV license now. With our new secure payment systems with a one-time PIN, OTP feature, and the choice of receiving your OTP via SMS or email, you can ensure prompt and secure payments. The additional use of capture will protect you against spam and automated data attractions. With TV licenses, you can enjoy watching all your favorite shows or movies that matter to you. Get yours today. Visit www.tvlic.co.za.
The argument of who will lift the Carling Knockout Cup will be concluded by the referee's final whistle. Stellenbosch FC and TS Galaxy FC tackles each other for the big prize at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Who will prevail eThekwini? Stellies or the Rockets? Catch the Carling Knockout Cup final between Stellenbosch FC and TS Galaxy FC on Saturday 16th December at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. #We love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
SAFM is sharing the festive spirit by giving away 5,000 Rand to 10 lucky winners. To enter, SMS SAFM Festive, followed by your name and what the festive season means to you to 41391. And you could win. Tune in to SAFM throughout December and we could be calling you. SMSs are charged at R1.50. Free SMSs, free minutes and SMS bundles do not apply. Terms and conditions apply. Visit safm.co.za for more information. Don't miss out on the SAFM Playwriting Competition. To enter, visit safm.co.za. From the menu icon, select competitions. Click on the SAFM Drama Playwriting Competition. Read the T's and C's of the competition. Check out the competition's Q&A. Fill in the entry form by clicking the link provided. Email your script to drama@safm.co.za. For further information, email drama@safm.co.za. Entries close on the 22nd of January 2024. SAFM, leading the conversation. #SAFMBTH.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And it's time for MoneyWeb Market Update with Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy, good evening. Welcome to the show and welcome back, by the way.
Good evening,
I heard that you were
Aldrin.
somewhere there in Gqeberha.
Yeah, I went to go see how people live in coastal towns, and it seems like it's a very good life. I see why people in Johannesburg always spend their holidays in coastal towns. It's so peaceful. You get no stress from Johannesburg, none of the hustle and bustle. It's so tranquil.
I love the Joburg hustle and bustle, I have to say. I really like it. I live for it. Like on Sundays, for instance, people still drive at 120 on the freeway in Joburg. But you go to coastal areas and like, why are you cruising?
The national speed limit in Cape Town is like 80, regardless of the day of the week it is. So I definitely know what you mean. No, I think Gqeberha is one of those interesting places. I'd never been before, right? So
Yeah.
It was an interesting time to get in touch with the Nelson Mandela Bay Development Agency and what they want to do there. And they've got big plans for that area and what they want to develop. And it's quite a big project that they want to see through. And they've been calling on investors, and so I thought I'd take a trip, see what it's all about. Very exciting things. They're looking for about 6 billion rand. Hopefully we'll find that. Hopefully you and I have the phone books to help them along the way. I don't know who you know, but I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that's got 6 billion lying around at the moment.
Well, you know the guys from Prescient who will tell us more about investments for 2024. So maybe they can give us like a, hey, look at what we got for you. You may not have the money as yet, but hey, look at what's possible.
Absolutely. I think they'd be quite interested. So I am catching up with Prescient later today, speaking to Bastian, who is the Chief Investment Officer, just around Prescient's thoughts on 2024. We've gone through unfathomable times over the last 3 years, and really going into 2024, everybody wants to know sort of where you put your investments, what you invest in, what even makes sense at this point. So that's one of the conversations we're going to be having later on. We're also going to be speaking to Pick and Pay around their local initiatives. So they've been supporting local businesses for the longest time, and they've been supporting a particular event in Cape Town that they've been sponsoring for the last 5 years. Aimed at local designers, and we're just going to get a sense of how they're involved in the local community, how all of the local designers then fit into the Pick and Pay clothing brand, and what it all means for South African businesses. We're also going to touch base with Chief Economist at the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, that's Richard Downing, around inflation and the business confidence numbers that came out. So the Chamber of Commerce put out BCI numbers today, but also we had that inflation print that came in slightly better than expected. I just want to get his thoughts around whether we're going to see interest rate decreases next year, because that's been priced in for a lot of global markets. But there is that unexpected volatility around elections that comes up every 5 years or so, and that usually gives volatility to the rand. So I want to know his thoughts around whether or not that's going to have enough of an impact to see the SARB make different decisions. It's unlikely at this point, but it's always good to be prepared. And then because it is Wednesday, we've got our executive feature today, and I'm excited to be chatting to Cheslin Jacobs. He's the Chief Commercial Officer at Time Bank. He's joining me in studio to have that conversation. It's not very often that you get a C-suite executive coming into studio to share bits and pieces of his life. So we're going to dig into what he gets up to, what he enjoys, might even ask him what his favorite food is and why people in Cape Town drive so slowly. But before we get to all of that, the markets have been quite interesting. Being sort of out of touch with the markets for a day and a bit has been rather therapeutic, to say the least, considering the volatility we've had. But the markets didn't do much today. And Henko Kriya has been keeping an eye on the markets for us throughout the day. I see there's been a couple of movements. Gold price kind of flat, but the rand just won't leave that 19 rand level alone. Good evening, Henko. Thanks as always for keeping an eye on the markets. What's happening with the rand?
Hello, Jimmy. Hi, Aldrin, and good evening to the listeners. Yes, Jimmy, today you wouldn't have missed too much, but yesterday was a bit of a bloodbath, as well as the day before that. And yesterday and the day before that, we saw so much weakness in the JSE, and it closing so much weaker, especially the resources index, mainly or predominantly due to the loss that Anglo has been suffering these last couple of days. But let's quickly start off by looking at what's going on overseas. In the US markets, at this stage, trading about 0.2% up, and in Europe, those markets closed quite also in the green, but not too high, with the FTSE 100 gaining 0.3% and the DAX and the CAC 40 each finishing 0.1% up. And then the JSE today, it was for the better part or most of the day in the green, the whole afternoon long, and then here, just before closing time, the JSE All Share Index decided to close unchanged, and that was then at a level of 72,641 points. The financial index finished 1% up, the industrial index 0.3% stronger, but then the resources index finishing 1.5% weaker. And we see the resources index still continuing to bleed, mainly and predominantly because of the mining companies. The mining companies have really been suffering these last couple of days, and the resources index then also losing quite a bit today, and closing a lot weaker due to two of the largest companies on the JSE finishing weaker today, and those two being Anglo and AB InBev. Anglo and AB InBev finishing 1.5% weaker at the end of the day. It was a better day for the financial companies, like we saw in the financial index. Standard Bank and First Rand, these two banks, they finished 1.5% stronger. And then we see the luxury company Richmond gaining 2% at the end of the day. Again, on the negative side of things, in the red, Tsogo Sun didn't have a great day, finishing 4% weaker. Motors 3.5% down. And then Amplats, Implats, Northam, Sibanye Stillwater, Anglo Gold, all those mining companies lost 3% today. On the positive side of things, Telkom finishing 5% stronger. Sanlam had a good day, 3.5% up. And Aspen, Sirius, Mondi, as well as Barloworld, each gained 2% at the end of the day. On the commodities market, the price of gold currently $1,980 an ounce. Silver sitting comfortably at $22.50. Platinum is trading at $928, and palladium at $974. Interesting to see that the price of platinum is almost nowadays the same price as that of palladium per ounce. Then Brent crude, I still like the price of Brent crude currently. It's going in the right direction, and that's downwards, now trading at $73.50 a barrel. Not the same for the rand, unfortunately. Now you'll pay 19 rand and 5 cents for a US dollar, 23 rand 80 for a pound, 20 rand and 55 cents for a euro, and 12 rand 50 for an Australian dollar. Bitcoin will cost you $41,400, and that's more or less 808,000 rand. Jimmy, that's how your markets performed today.
I'll never stop celebrating that oil price sitting below $75. I think it's the best thing, it's the best Christmas gift we could get if we look at some of the market movements. Thanks so much for that update, Henku. We're definitely going to dig into the resources counters. I see they're down another 1.4% in today's trade, as you mentioned earlier. I want to see what's happening with the likes of ARK Invest, Amplats, Implats, all down, as you mentioned today. But we'll dig into that in a little bit more detail just after 6 p.m. For now, Aldrin, it's back to you and the team, and we'll be back just now.
Thank you so much. And Jimmy Moya back again just after 6 o'clock. We're taking your calls on 086 000 2032, your ex at Aldrin Sampear, and you can also drop us a comment on Facebook as well as YouTube, where we're streaming live from. I see there are a couple of comments on the interviews that we just had, so we'll be reading those when we come back.
Hi, Aldrin. This is Tabani. Why it is Cape Town only? because Limpopo is using the same mode of transport to transport farm workers, KZN. In fact, Mpumalanga everywhere. Why is Cape Town only? Because it's governed by DA.
No.
Wow, it's ridiculous.
No, it's not Cape Town only. It is, we're speaking about it because it happened in the Western Cape, and it is COSATU in the Western Cape that is raising this concern. So it's not about it only happening in Cape Town, surely not. Speaking about that, and Dombekaya on YouTube says that, hi Aldrin, when it comes to the issue of farm workers being transported on trucks, it's an ongoing thing. I don't see it coming to an end anytime soon. Cento also on our YouTube channel says Sundowns is using their boss financial muscle to weaken and destabilize opponents for them to dominate. It's not good for your soccer. And I actually asked Dumi about that as well. Is because if it's predictable that this team is going to win, does it take out that, I don't know, that anticipation that you have when you're watching a match, and the anxiety that sometimes come with watching matches or watching sports, that you know that this team is going to win, so should I really be watching, or am I really that interested? Marvin goes on to say that I work in construction and transporting people at the back of the bakkie is not allowed. And Wicked, Quake, Wicked, I think you need to change your name. I think you need to change your handle, because it has something there that I can't mention here on air. Otherwise, we'll have a BCCSA complaint. So if you be kind enough to change your handle or your username, I'd really appreciate that. But anyway, Wicked says farm workers' safety is crucial. So providing transportation, meeting the safety and the comfort standards farmers prefer for themselves is essential. Fostering a secure working environment. Let's take your voice notes.
Hi, Aldrin, your team and the listeners. As someone said, money can buy you happiness. I say money gives you choices.
Options, yeah.
Kumi, Northmid.
Hi, Aldrin. Yeah, the death of the farm workers is regretted. Really, it is regretted. However, my problem is, Aldrin, today there's a call for the ban of trucks that transport farm workers. But in the area where I live, Groblersdal and Marble Hall area, there are farms there. Raskuman, we call it Raskuman and Raskumbi. You know, farming oranges and grapes. Farm workers are transported in trucks, and horrible accidents occur that side. But nothing is said about the banning of the trucks. Hi man, this government has to be fair and consistent. Are they now talking about the banning of trucks that transport farm workers because now the accident happened in the DA-led province? Hi man, these people, no man, no Aldrin. They need to be fair and consistent in applying these rules or policies. Okay, Nare.
Thank you, Nare. SA Poverty says that in Motherwell, farm workers who work in those farms that produce oranges in Ado, a kilometer away, farmers have provided buses for farm workers, nice buses. There was once a truck accident of farm workers. They are no longer transported by trucks but by buses. So what stops the other farmers from doing the same thing? But as Marvin had said, that there are costs involved in it, but don't you cherish the life of your workers, your human capital? But also to that question, what's your duty, do you think, your duty as a citizen, but as a customer and a consumer of the products, that farm workers play quite a crucial role in making sure that they arrive freshly on your table? What do you say about their working conditions? Lebu is joining us from Limpopo. Good evening.
Hi, Aldrin. How are you?
Good. How's it, Lebu?
Good. I have a question, Aldrin. This is in relation to COP28. I'm thinking if the agreement goes through and fossils are being phased out, that will have a detrimental effect on the currency.
Oh, we're losing you, Lebo.
I'm saying because the US dollar strength is based on the international oil market.
Mm.
And that will then make their dollar very, very weak. If indeed they are going to phase out oil. Does it make sense to you?
Okay, just explain that a bit. So I know that when we speak about oil, and now that you just heard Jimmy celebrating the price of a barrel of oil, that it is always dollar denominated. So you're saying what will happen if we phase out fossil fuel?
I'm saying that will actually devalue the currency of the US dollar. Because what makes it strong is the international oil market. We use dollars to buy oil.
Mm.
Any country uses dollars to buy oil.
Yeah.
And if that stops, if we no longer use that, it means then that their currency will no longer be as strong as it is today.
Just because of the oil and not the other trade that is done in dollar denominations.
Exactly, yes.
Do you have an estimation by how much the dollar would be devalued?
Not exactly.
Not exactly,
but
okay.
I know the history of the dollar, that it was actually through Saudi Arabia kind of a agreement with the US and to sell oil in dollars only.
Okay, tell you what we'll do, Lebu. We'll put it on the agenda, see that if we can get an expert in the field and see whether there is a link, as you say, between the currency, the strength of the dollar, and also the dollar weakening because of a phasing out of a fossil fuel being purchased in dollar-denominated currency. So we're going to see if we can find an expert and then bring the conversation to the fore, and I'd love to hear your input on it as well. We've come to the end of our voyage. Thank you so much for choosing Flight SFM BTH 326 with me, Aldrin Sampear. Today we are playing out with Bongizwe Mabandla Ndoku Landela, and our parting shot is from Randy Posh, who once said, "It is important to have a specific dream or specific dreams. Dream big, dream without fear." And Kitla Ring is reading our credits this evening.
As the wonderful show draws to a close, we thank the production team, Temba Kanya, Vusane, Patrick and Lundi, and not leaving behind the captain of the BTH team, Aldrin Sampear, and Tuming Kapele behind the mic.
Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
And remember to love each other and lead with compassion. Dotsins, enjoy the rest of your evening. And have a beautiful day. Remember to love each other and lead with compassion.
Songi mini sobo mi bam